I'm Adam Sandler, and I want grandma. I'm definitely peeking my microphone. I can see it.
That's okay, because I'm Hubie from the world-famous movie Hubie's Halloween, starring Adam Sandler. I talk like this the whole runtime, and I have over 50% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wait, okay, so Hubie Halloween, he plays does he play a character, or does he just play Adam Sandler in it?
He plays a character, but it is a character that is like a Frankenstein's monster of just Adam Sandler tropes. So really, it makes it a scarier movie because, like, psychologically, he is a monster while dealing with monsters.
Yeah.
But there's a okay, so this is kind of a spoiler, but towards like the end of the movie, he like breaks the fourth wall and he goes, theme song? Because this is the Motion Pixels podcast. So this week, as you may have noticed, I did watch Hubie Halloween. So we'll be talking about Halloween movies. I've watched 14 of my 31 Halloween movies for this month.
Ooh, you're behind.
I'm behind. Yeah, we're recording this on the 16th. I'm 2 behind, which is typical, but I'll do some marathons on the weekends. I just have movies on all the time. I'll put on, I'll put on Get Out. I've seen Get Out like 12 times. I'll just, I'll figure it out. Much like Hubie and how he figures out how to protect the town from monsters on Halloween. But that's besides the point, because this week we'll also be talking about Hades, which is an awesome game that we talked about before when it was in early access. And Dane and I have been playing the shit out of it, so we're going to touch on that. Allegedly, Dane has also been playing the shit out of Vermintide 2, or as he put it, killing rats with hammers, the game. So we'll be talking about that. Matthew has been strapped in, ready to go in Star Wars Squadrons with his sick VR setup. So we'll be touching on that. And what's funny is that Dane has no idea what Star Wars Squadrons is. He was like, what's that? He didn't even use an Adam Sandler voice, but he sounded so dumb when he said that. We'll also, and because Dane is here, the recurring segment, Talkin' Tea with Uncle Dane, I guess, I think that's the name of the segment. We'll be talking T F2's Halloween update. And also, I hadn't played a Halloween update in like 8 to 10 years, and it was a lot. So, yeah, we'll be talking about that. So, boys, what do you want to start with?
Well, let's talk Hubie's Halloween first.
I want to hear about this.
Let's continue on what we were talking about at the beginning, because I only heard briefly about it, just like being a Netflix Adam Sandler movie, and I've been tricked before by Netflix and Adam Sandler when I watched that movie where he played like a Hollywood agent. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-mm.
He played like Hollywood
Sandy
agent.
Wexler?
Yes, yeah, where he played. Apparently he played a real person, but he was pretty much just doing a character the entire time. And I don't know. I was tricked into it because I didn't realize that it was a Happy Madison movie, and I didn't realize that it was just Adam Sandler doing his shtick. Let's back up first. I'm not a huge fan of Adam Sandler's movies. I like him as a person. I think that he's great. I just don't like the movies he chooses to do most of the time. They're almost always just like work for him. He just like clocks in, goes to work, says lines, and then goes home. And I think that that's really lazy and annoying, and it's stupid that people go and watch them just because he made them. And I thought maybe when I turned that movie on, I was like watching it with Austin, and we were like, oh, cool. Adam Sandler might have finally done some work. He finally like went above and beyond and like put on a wig and did a character for once instead of just like in Pixels where he's just like playing himself. He's like, yeah, I know how to play Pac-Man or something. Like he's just not a character. And And then the movie sucked. Like it was still bad. And it made me realize, oh, just because he's playing a character doesn't mean it's good. I mean, like look at the movie where he's like a hairdresser. He's like an offensive.
God! Don't mess with the Zohan.
Yeah, where he's like an offensive gay, like foreign stereotype, and like everybody thinks that it's fine. I don't like. That's another crazy thing is that like, how does he get away with being like racist and offensive and homophobic all the time? Like
that was the tail end of the 2000s when you could still get away with
No,
that.
I mean he still gets away with it. I mean, look at
like what?
He can't keep getting away with this.
Like, okay, a good example is like Jack and Jill, right? Like I've seen
that
the
movie is so bad.
Yeah, I know.
I just watched it.
There's so many like racist jokes in it, especially with the like expensive Mexicans. And it's because and I think that the reason why they were able to kind of get away with it in Jack and Jill for the most part, and nobody really when people talk about Jack and Jill, I was just like, yeah, the movie just wasn't very funny, but nobody talks about like how like lowbrow the movie is, like terribly lowbrow. Like it's just not funny. Like I'm fine with like making jokes at the expense of like stereotypes if it's funny, right? But he's just like there's just a Mexican guy in the movie where he's just like I just jumped over the border.
Is it played by Rob Schneider, if I remember correctly?
No, I really wish it was, because there were a lot of other older like Adam Sandler movies where Rob Schneider always showed up and he was like a foreigner. But anyway,
Woof.
I've mentioned like 6 or 7 fucking Adam Sandler movies by now. Anyway, I'm done with his shtick. If he plays a character, I'm not interested. If he plays himself, I'm not interested. The only time that I was actually caught off guard recently, of course, was in one of my favorite movies of all time now, which is I'm blanking. What is it?
Uncut Gems.
Yes, Uncut Gems. So good. I've seen it like 3 times in the last since it came out. I want to watch it again. But obviously he didn't have anything to do with the writing of that movie. He's just a good actor, which is another one of the reasons why I like him. And I really wish he would just make better movies, but clearly just doesn't care. He just wants to clock in and clock out and go home.
Dane, all I'm hearing is that you like Adam Sandler movies where his eyes shrink.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's the defining
That's
factor.
your criteria, yeah.
That is a huge criteria for me with Adam Sandler movies. Anyway, I'm assuming when I heard about Hubie Halloween, I was like assuming because it's on Netflix, which is like quickly becoming the straight to DVD equivalent
big time.
Of the internet. I just kind of assumed that it was the new Adam Sandler shtick where he clocked in, but he's doing a character this time.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, I watched it. I watched Hubie Halloween because my criterion for the Halloween grab bag 2020 is quite a low bar in terms of being a Halloween horror, what have you movie. So I did watch it. I did enjoy it, and so first of all, I took notes, just not detailed, just to
took
jog
notes
my
of
memory.
Hubie Halloween.
Wait. Before we get, I just want to preface to the audience that before we started podcasting, he said, I think people are talking about it because it's like not totally terrible. Just kind of like how The Wrong Missy wasn't totally terrible.
The Wrong Missy was funny. Lauren Lapkus is funny.
You were one of the 5 people on earth who think that movie is funny. I think
there are.
I saw some clips from the movie.
33% of us.
I saw some clips from the movie, and it looks just unwatchable. I don't understand.
Look, it's not good.
I know, but but you saying that made me instantly think that Hubie Halloween is terrible because you said
it's quite bad.
Yeah, go into what you think is good about the movie, though.
Yeah, so Hubie Halloween is quite bad. The notes I took among them is one of the dumbest movies I've seen. It's yes, the movie is just it's not a good movie by any stretch of the imagination, but much like Hubie's character is just like a Frankenstein's monster of Adam Sandler tropes, the movie has very little cohesive narrative, and a lot of it is just like a scene with extremely famous actors doing something. Hubie like stumbles onto the scene, they make fun of him, and then he screams and runs away. For instance, Ray Liotta. Okay, so have you guys seen Goodfellas?
Yeah, I know who Ray Liotta is.
Yeah. Okay, so Ray Liotta
isn't he in the
Goodfellas
commercial?
fame. What commercial? For Hubie Halloween?
Yeah. No, he's in like these commercials for like male enhancement pills or something. I don't know.
Oh, I mean that seems very on brand. He's like a machismo, like I'm walking here. He's like that kind of.
He was in
Italian,
Goodfellas, and that's it.
Guy.
That's all I know him from.
Yeah, that's all I think I've seen him in. Besides like movies where he plays like Ray Liotta, like this one where he has a different name, I think, but he just plays who you think of when you think of Ray Liotta, and he's in the movie for some reason. And there's a whole scene where like it follows Ray Liotta, who I watched this movie and I don't know who he is or who he was supposed to be. You meet Ray Liotta because Hubie got scared in a graveyard because it's this graveyard and graveyards is scary. First of all, okay, let me backtrack. So Hubie,
what's this fucking movie about? Are we gonna get to that?
Yeah. We're gonna unwind the enigma that is Hubie Halloween.
He keeps talking about this Hubie character. It might as well be a dragon.
Okay, his name is Hubie Dubois, and
that's a funny name. First of all, I love it.
Okay, so are you familiar with the portion of America, like Louisiana-esque, where Creole
South
is prominent? No, like Louisiana, parts of the South, yeah, like maybe Florida, where Creole is prevalent. Dubois, it's like a French name, but I think Hubie seems to come from that area. He's a character maybe from that area because his name is Hubie Dubois, and he's quite an interesting fellow. He's
just making up lore for this character.
No. So my theory. Okay, I gotta.
Your theory.
This
it's not even about the fucking
this
movie.
This is exactly how the pitch to Netflix went. By the way, this is word for word.
Okay, so Hubie Halloween is a movie about Okay, I'm trying to be real. I don't mean to step on any toes here, but I think he's like a man with special needs, disabled man. I'm not sure what the phrase is.
Yeah, he's like he's like a water boy-esque kind of thing, right?
He's a water boy-esque character who does not. People make fun of him a lot because he talks. He talks. Like
he does it. It's the Adam Sandler character. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. He's a Frankenstein's monster of different Adam Sandler tropes, and he's very stupid, but very lovable.
But he's got a big heart. He's
got a big heart, and his entire shtick, Hubie Dubois, the thing he's known for year round, not just on Halloween, is making sure people are safe on Halloween. he just loves Halloween, and he worries about people being dangerous. So on Halloween, he dresses up as a Halloween monitor. Like he puts on like a sash that says monitor, and he just like goes around and makes sure that people don't take too much candy out of bowls and like, I don't know, trip while trick-or-treating. He just like makes sure people are being safe. And every October, his like yard is totally covered in, like dumb Halloween decorations and things like that. And that is the story of the movie. This is just it takes place during Halloween.
Adam Sandler can take
keep people safe.
Like an idea that could very well just be like a forgettable SNL sketch and just turn it into like a $75 million movie.
Yeah, really, I am not exaggerating when I say that is what they give you. And then the rest of the movie is just like these scenes that are loosely connected where Hubie interacts with really famous actors doing something kind of funny. Like
it's SNL.
Steve Buscemi. It's like a very highly produced episode of SNL where like their wigs
where there's only one
character.
Not, like,
breaking. Yeah. It's so just off the top of my head, the people who are in it, Ray Liotta's in it. Steve Buscemi is in it. Shaquille O'Neal is in it.
Sure.
Shaquille O'Neal plays like a radio host who uses a sexy woman's voice. Like they just dub in a sexy woman's voice, and that's his radio voice. And then Hubie meets him for some reason, and it's just Shaquille O'Neal's like, "Oh, what's up? Oh, you thought that was my real voice? No, that's my radio voice." And that's the joke.
Wait, are you telling me Shaquille O'Neal doesn't play himself?
No, I mean
that's weird.
Yeah, he doesn't play himself.
How could anyone? Yeah, how does anyone look at Shaquille O'Neal and not think that's Shaquille O'Neal? That's so distracting.
The makeup, was pretty good. The prosthetics. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, he looks just. I mean, he just is Shaquille O'Neal. It's like an SNL sketch. It's like
Exactly.
Shaquille O'Neal playing some random radio host.
All right. That's fine.
The mother from Modern Family plays a love interest with Hubie, who was like his like girl he pined after in high school, but then she married Kevin James, who plays like a cop who she ends up being divorced from, but he's like addicted to Hershey's Kisses. He's like constantly eating Hershey's Kisses.
What the fuck?
Yeah, and I'm sure and then Maya Rudolph is in it.
Right.
Maya Rudolph,
More
wife
SNL.
to Paul Thomas Anderson. Lest we forget.
Yeah.
And a whole, it's like one of the more stacked casts I've ever seen. I would say it's kind of like
because
Love Actually,
Adam
or like one of
Sandler
those movies.
shows up to whatever production company and he's like, "I'm Adam Sandler. I've got a bunch of friends in Hollywood. Give me money. I can get them to be in the movie for 10 seconds." Like, that's
Yeah.
what he's always done. You go back and watch any of his old movies, even the ones that people think are good, like Waterboy and stuff. Like that's like what the movies are founded on. Like celebrity cameos and like scenes that are just like unconnected, that are just like, oh, this is the scene where Adam Sandler is in class and he's stupid, and that's the joke.
Yeah, the whole movie is just Adam Sandler being stupid in different places, and then people reacting to that. Ben Stiller's also in it. Kenan Thompson, the dude from The Shield who played the Thing in Fantastic Four.
Okay.
He plays a priest. And the list goes on and on. And so Hubie is trying to make sure everyone is safe on Halloween by patrolling around on like a bike. And there's not really like a story. It's like Steve Buscemi is this guy who Hubie thinks is a werewolf who just moved in next to him, and a kid gets like abducted in a corn maze, and at one point, so Hubie fails to keep these children safe on Halloween. One of the first thing that happens is that Hubie fails. So Hubie, the failure, then tries to figure out who abducted this kid, and he thinks it's this werewolf who lives next door, who is played by Steve Buscemi. But everyone in the town thinks just Hubie's being Hubie. But then I don't even know if other things happen, or if I don't know if like other people get abducted, or if it's just Hubie running around acting so like psychotic. Adam Sandler just literally like running into frame and screaming, and people needing to deal with that eventually makes people like start talking to Hubie about like what he's so worried about. You know what? A few other. I'm just gonna spoil it. Can I just spoil it? Do you guys mind if I
Yes,
spoil
I'm
Hubie
never gonna
Halloween?
see this movie.
I literally don't care about this movie yet.
Okay, so the best, not really. The worst part, well, it's hard to say like what's the best and what's the worst part of this movie, because like the term good and bad are so intertwined with Adam Sandler movies.
He is the perfect yin and yang.
Yeah, he is the perfect yin and yang. It perfectly balances all things should be movie. Hubie Halloween. So a couple other people get abducted, including Ray Liotta, I think. And I don't remember him getting abducted, but at the end of the movie, there's like a big reveal where you see all of these characters like tied to this movie takes place in Salem, Massachusetts, and Hubie keeps telling people that his great-great-grandmother was like a witch who got burned during the Salem witch trials. And that's not really touched on in the movie until the end, when there's a big reveal of all these characters who you had seen previously, like Maya Rudolph's character, Ray Liotta's character. They're all tied to like wooden poles, like they're about to be burned at the stake. And you find out that the person who abducted them wasn't the werewolf. It was Hubie's mom, because she thought people didn't respect her son enough, so she was going to burn them all at the stake. And she, rather than killing them, just says like, you guys should all feel really bad for yourself because my son's like a really good dude. And then she runs into the forest. And
it was a lesson.
the movie.
It was a lesson.
Yeah, it was a lesson that you should respect Hubie.
Okay.
So they.
I
don't
hope this is
all
the new
die.
Ernest, like Hubie
That's
Halloween.
the thing. Okay, so that's
There's
the
gonna
thing.
be
It
Hubie
is
Thanksgiving.
This is an Ernest movie, like for lack of a better comparison.
No, I mean,
like,
I
really,
hope
it's
that
Adam
they make
Sandler doing
like
Ernest.
10 or 15 more of them with Hubie.
I really wouldn't be
for
I want to
surprised.
say Hubie's Easter.
Yeah, Hubie Easter,
Because-
Hubie Christmas, all that.
They could do that because the end of the movie. So first of all, the title Hubie Halloween,
Cinematic Universe.
the HCU, Hubie's Halloween doesn't really like. You have to think about it. Like, is that like a pun? Is it like Happy Halloween, but it's Hubie? Like, it doesn't really make sense. So they could do that with any holiday or really like any other word. You know, they could do like Hubie Vietnam. And it could be Hubie like going to fucking Nam. And we wouldn't care. I'd still watch it.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I would be into that, Dane, if they did make this into like the ECU, the Ernest Cinematic Universe, and it was just Hubie doing Hubie stuff and running into frame and screaming and then leaving when he gets scared and screaming as well. That'd be cool in like any situation. I'd watch all 90 of those that Adam Sandler would pump out. So moral of the story, this is a bad movie, but I think you may have heard that it is Adam Sandler's most successful movie on Netflix so far, and he's put out like 5 or 6 of them, probably more that I don't know about.
That could be totally made up though, because Netflix just likes to like say that. They said that about Bird Box, and I have a hard time believing that was real.
There were so many people talking about Bird Box though when that came out that I believe that was their
Here's the
fastest watched
thing, though.
show.
No, here's the thing though. People started talking about it after Netflix said that it was the most watched thing. Like, I think that Netflix just said, this is hot, so if you're not watching it, then you're gonna be left out. And then everybody's like, oh, I guess I should watch it. And then it became a thing. And then of course the Bird Box challenge like multiplied that. And that was just
Bird
like
Box challenge.
Yeah,
where
the Bird
people like
Box challenge?
blindfolded themselves and then like drove their car into like telephone poles and stuff.
What?
That sounds like a cool challenge for cool people.
Yeah. I mean, you guys don't remember that? That was like the big thing for like a week. But
No, I mean, I watched Bird Box, but I
don't
watch
know.
it because people were hyping it. I just saw it on Netflix, and I figured I'd give it a shot.
I saw a Red Letter Media video where they were like pointing out that Netflix never releases any numbers, but for some reason the only time that they release like numbers for something is when it's something that they've produced and when it's something that just came out. They're like, Bird Box got a lot of views. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's
like,
for their-
publish
For
this.
the shareholders.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
they bring that news to big publications and then they publicize it through the media and then everybody's like, Bird Box, oh, I guess this is the hot new movie everybody's watching. Let's watch it. So
Yeah, that might be the case here with Hubie Halloween.
I think that they do that. I think that it's just a tinfoil hat theory, though. I think that it's like a marketing thing. That they do.
Whether or not Netflix started its popularity or it was organic to whatever degree, I think it's quite popular. I've heard a bunch of people talking about it, and the moral of the story, from what I hear, is that people are saying it's not that bad and that it's okay. And I would say it's not that bad. But I'm also, I wouldn't say I'm an Adam Sandler apologist, but I tolerate his movies. Right. I think it was in a PPC, pre-pod conversation. Dane, you were saying, I was like, you can just like turn on The Last Missy. Like, it's fun. And you were like, yeah, I could also turn on my car and then go inside.
I personally don't see the appeal of just putting a movie on, like, just to have a movie on. I sit down and I watch movies. Like, movies are there to be watched for me. I just don't like put on background noise. Like, I know that there's like an entire generation of people who like grew up watching television, so they like need some like background noise. People like fall asleep to the television. I cannot do that. Like, I just can't. Like, if it's on, then I need to watch it. Like, I go over to my mom's house sometimes and she has the television on all the time. And it's really hard to talk to her when the television is on, because when the television is on, my attention is like, I have to watch the TV because it's on. And that's what we're doing, right? Like, in my brain, it's like the TV's on, so like, why aren't we watching it? But like, she's trying to talk to me while a show is on, and my brain is like confused. It's like, so wait, what are we doing? Are we watching TV or are we talking? Like, I can't do two things at once. And I don't know if that's just because I have a brain tumor or disability, but It's I think that it's all related. Like I can't just put a movie on just to have it on. Like, so I just don't understand the appeal of movies that are clearly made for that purpose. You know?
Yeah, it's a thing people do.
Yes.
I'll put on like a shitty movie that I don't care about if I'm like cleaning, just to have something on. I don't fall asleep.
That's what music's for.
Yeah,
I don't
do that
really
with, like,
listen to music,
podcasts.
but I guess I kind of do when I clean. I most of the time, if I'm cleaning or just like doing stuff around the house, I'll put on a podcast, whether it's on my TV or just audio or a dumb movie. Like for instance, The Last Missy might have been one like that. I don't recall.
Sure.
Or any number of other Adam Sandler films that are very forgettable and I might have watched, but I don't remember. That's the magic of Adam Sandler movies, is you can just forget about them most of the time.
Cool.
Yeah. So Hubie Halloween was one of 14 other movies that I watched. I'll rattle them off and I'll shoot off some takes on some that I really liked or had an opinion on. I started out with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I say that because it's usually stylized to be chainsaw, like the word chainsaw, but the original release was called the Texas Chain Space Saw Massacre, and I think that's cool. That my only note for that, I've been taking a few notes on movies that I've been watching, just so I can jog the old brain when I'm podding. The only note I have on that is the greatest. I think it's probably my favorite horror movie at this point. I watched this is the second time I've seen it. It's really good. I've already talked about it in the pod, so I won't get into it, but I think the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is like a perfect horror movie. So I watched that. Reanimator and From Beyond I watched. These are two movies by Stuart Gordon, I think is the director. They're these really campy H.P. Lovecraft adaptations. You can watch them on Shudder. I really liked both of them. They're both pretty similar. Reanimator is about this like doctor who gets disgraced because the medical community thinks he killed his mentor, but really his mentor died and maybe he killed him, but he was trying to bring him back from the dead with this like serum that he created. So he breaks into a morgue at this medical school and tries to like reanimate the dead. And it had some awesome special effects. Like there's a big portion of the movie where a character is like doesn't have a head anymore because it was removed during an autopsy or something, and he's just like carrying around his own head, and it looks pretty good. Like it doesn't look like, you know, like one of those Halloween costumes where people like have their head out, but then the costume is much taller than they are. So like the severed head
like the one in
prosthetic is above
Hubie
them.
Halloween.
Yeah, exactly. Like Tim Meadows wears that in Tim Meadows of SNL fame.
I was looking at some pictures and I saw that he had that. So I thought it was weird that you brought that up.
Yeah, maybe that was in the brain.
It all
because
comes
of
back.
Hubster,
It all-
the old Hubster.
It all
Hubie
makes
has
sense.
everything.
Oh, okay, speaking of Hubie has everything. So guys, I have a feeling
Oh my
Hubie Halloween
God.
might be a favorite of this month. So Hubie Halloween, or Hubie Dubois, for some reason, he offhandedly mentions that when he was in Boy Scouts, when he was young, he made a canteen. He just like mentioned this. He's like carries around this canteen with him. And he like is like, oh yeah, I made this when I was in Boy Scouts. And I just thought to myself, like, I was in Boy Scouts and I never made a canteen. Like, that's interesting. Why would they mention that? But throughout the whole movie, he is like Doctor Who, but with his canteen. It's a Swiss Army canteen. It has a vacuum cleaner. It has a shovel. It holds soup. It has a grappling hook. Like he uses it as a grappling hook to escape like a zombie or something in one scene. You know, it probably has a gun. And it's really badass. But yeah, getting back to the other movies I watched. From Beyond was the other Stuart Gordon movie. Now this one came out after Reanimator, so I think it like kind of plays upon what people liked about Reanimator. Reanimator is like a kind of a cult classic-y kind of movie. You should check out the poster's really cool. You kind of get the vibe of the movie from the poster. Like it's very campy, pulpy looking.
Is it a Hubie like?
It is not a Hubie like. I wish it was a Hubie like. You know, I think if Hubster plays
It's a
his cards
Hubie
right,
light.
it's
Hubie like.
You know, okay, so At one point in American history, Ernest Hemingway, author, man, once said that all fiction, and this is a paraphrase, all fiction that was written after The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn was inspired by The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. I think it's fair to say that all movies made after Hubie Halloween are in some way inspired by the legacy of Hubie Halloween. So, yeah, I guess you could say
I think the past applies too. The prophecy of.
It goes both ways. Like a Wrinkle in Time, like you move the line and it, becomes like a string and it's like closer together or whatever. And Oprah becomes like a fully leveled up Destiny character. I didn't really pay attention. That movie was bad, but have you guys seen A Wrinkle in Time? The newer movie? Okay, so just look up, like, anyone listening to this.
I've seen Oprah in it.
Okay, any of our audience members or Dane, if you haven't, just Google Wrinkle in Time Oprah Destiny 2. And Oprah's character looks like a fully leveled up Destiny 2 character.
I've seen
which is funny.
I've seen Oprah from Wrinkle in Time, right?
Yeah, and if you've played Destiny 2, then you've probably seen her as well. But that doesn't have anything to do with what I'm talking about. Yeah, so From Beyond is another Stuart Gordon movie. It's a very campy sci-fi movie about this scientist who is messing around with like magnetic resonance, whatever that means. Basically, these like giant tuning forks that vibrate to such a frequency that causes the pineal gland in your brain to expand. And you can sense things, you can see things that you typically can't. And it's kind of a cool premise. Like basically it turns out that there's these weird like jellyfish squid monsters always around us and we just can't see them because our pineal glands have not been properly stimulated. And this scientist guy goes crazy and gets lost in that dimension and turns into like this oozy monster that kind of looks like he's from The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, which famously has awesome prosthetic monsters that are real goopy and drippy. And this guy turns into one of those, and his protege, sorry, I think there's people walking above me quite loudly, but his protege, the same actor who plays the scientist who was the protege of the guy he tried to reanimate in Reanimator, the same actor, his name is escaping me. In From Beyond, this guy tries to like stop that scientist, and because he's in this area that is being being resonated, the machine is called the resonator. His pineal gland gets stimulated to the point where he has like a brain boner. Like, I think the only note I have on this movie is the word brain boners, because quite literally, like a erection type thing, in this case a pineal gland, sprouts from his forehead, and the movie has all these like weird horror sex scenes that I won't get into because it's a really very odd movie that I liked a lot, and it's real campy, real pulpy, real weird. So yeah, I'd recommend From Beyond. It's on Shudder as well. I watched Cape Fear, a Martin Scorsese movie. Have you guys? I know I talked to you, Dane, in a game of TF2 about Cape Fear, but you said you saw it a while ago, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, a pretty long time ago, like probably when I was either a teenager or my early 20s. Yeah, so like more than a decade at this point since I've seen it. But I remember really liking it a lot.
Yeah, it's a cool movie, Matt. Have you seen Cape Fear? It's a Martin Scorsese film with Robert De Niro. Okay, so Cape Fear is
wait, a Robert De Niro was in a Martin Scorsese movie?
Yeah, it was, but this is only the 7th time.
Oh, okay.
Cape Fear. That's actually true. So this is the 7th collaboration between Robert.
Holy
De Niro.
crap!
Yeah, so the 7th time was the charm. It turned out. So this was I guess Martin Scorsese had a development deal with Amblin Entertainment, Steven Spielberg's company, in the 80s or 90s. I don't remember when this movie came out, but 80s or 90s. And this is the first movie in that collaboration. So it's like a big budget Martin Scorsese movie, where a lot of his older 70s movies are lower budget. And it's pretty cool. It's like a revenge thriller, almost kind of a horror movie. It's about this guy who's wrongfully convicted, or maybe wrongfully convicted of rape. where his attorney, played by Nick Nolte of Mandalorian fame.
Nick Nolte.
Nick Nolte.
Nick Nolte.
He's the I have spoken guy in Mandalorian, I think. Nick Nolte.
It's funny that people know him as that, but I mean, I've known him as Bruce Banner's dad for a lot longer.
Wait, in the 2003 Hulk movie?
Yeah.
Eric Bana's dad?
Yeah.
I
that was the first movie where I saw him in, and I thought he was like like people give that movie shit, but I actually think it's really interesting. Like, who made that movie? Same guy that like made Brokeback Mountain and a bunch of other. Oh, Ang Lee. Like, Ang Lee made that movie.
What?
So it's,
oh my God, I don't remember that.
So like you go back and watch it, and it's actually like kind of like clever the way it's done. This was before people like started associating like superhero movies with like big budget blockbusters, and I think that Ang Lee approached it. He's just like, I want to make a comic book movie. Literally, I want to make a comic book movie, and the way the movie is like edited and shot is very reminiscent of a comic book. There's a lot of picture in picture that looks like a comic book, like physically on the screen. And I think it's really interesting and fun to watch. And I don't think a lot of people really like, I don't know, people just kind of give the movie shit besides like, despite the fact that I think that it's really cleverly done. I don't know.
I liked the 2003 Hulk movie.
Yeah. I think it's really
pretty good.
cool and
especially
interesting.
the comic book aspect. Cause like a lot of the early, I think, didn't Spider-Man do a very light version of that? Maybe like the first
kind
one?
of, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Although
Yeah.
I would say that Sam Raimi Spider-Man is more like campy, but that's mostly just because Sam Raimi is campy. But he's
yeah, I just mean like the comic book aesthetic, tying it in. Like Hulk did it really well, but I thought I had seen it somewhere before,
Hulk
but
did
no
it-
one really ran with that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it was like directly inspired, but I mean the 2003 Hulk movie, like they do it in like every scene. But I think the movie, like despite I'm sure a lot of the special effects probably don't hold up, but I think that it's still like an entertaining movie. And Nick Nolte in the movie is really great, but he's just like a really fun actor anyway. So anyway, that's what I know Nick Nolte from, and also from Tropic Thunder, which is also one of my favorite comedies.
Wait, who was he in Tropic Thunder?
He was the guy that the movie was based off of. Like they were making the movie. The movie that they're making is called Tropic Thunder in the movie Tropic Thunder. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But that movie's based on a book by a Vietnam War vet, and that Vietnam War vet is on set, and that's Nick Nolte. And he convinces the director to take them out into their actual jungle and like shoot it guerrilla style because they were having problems with it, like getting the actors to actually act well.
Oh,
you should definitely rewatch it.
Dies or something. Yeah,
100% rewatch it. Oh, dude, I watch it like
years.
every year. It's really fucking funny. And it's super weird to see all of these like high level actors in this movie because that movie is so like ballsy. Like they get away with a lot of stuff, and it wasn't even that long ago.
I mean, Robert De Niro's character is like in blackface the entire movie.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's
self-aware blackface, but it's like it's super like other than that, the movie is extremely raunchy, and I looking back on it, I cannot believe I went to go see it with my friend's parents, and they came out of the movie and they said, "Oh yeah, we liked it," but the whole movie I was just like, "Oh my god, this like feel like I shouldn't be watching this movie with them," but yeah, it's really great. I love the fake trailers at the beginning too.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
They're so
What
fucking
is it? Simple Jack, and then the one where he's like a
No, Simple Jack isn't one of the trailers. That's
not?
just later in the movie that they find out that he was in a movie like
the
that.
boot. Isn't there Bootios? Like Bustin' Up bar.
That was like a fake commercial and stuff for the Bust a Nut bars for Booty Sweat and Bust a Nut.
Yeah, Booty Sweat.
But the fake trailers are great. There's like an Adam Sandler comedy, or it was like supposed to be a parody of Adam Sandler comedies and also like the Meet the Clumps kind of style thing with Jack Black, and he like plays a bunch of fat people in fat suits. And he's just like,
they're just farting a bunch.
and he's just like, they were like sitting around a table and stuff, and it's just Jack Black and a bunch of like cosmetics, and they're all farting.
Yeah, I remember the farts.
I don't think I've ever seen Tropic Thunder.
Oh man,
Wow.
okay, I'm not gonna spoil any of it for you then because it's actually a really good movie. Like it's a
12
dumb
years
comedy.
old. Does it hold up?
It's a dumb comedy, but it's like super like well done. I don't really. It's really weird how kind of under the radar that movie is, because it's. I think it was not. I think Robert Downey Jr. was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. I'm not even kidding.
So.
Yeah,
the movie was directed by Ben Stiller.
Yeah, directed, written, and starring Ben Stiller. Apparently he's a good filmmaker. I haven't seen any of his other movies like Greenberg and stuff, but yeah. Anyway, that's where I know Nick Nolte from. Totally off topic. I'm sorry.
No, I would say war is horrifying, and Tropic Thunder is a war movie. So technically, Tropic Thunder is a horror movie. But yeah, in Cape Fear, Nick Nolte plays this attorney who didn't turn in some evidence that might have what's the term?
Convicted him?
No. What's the opposite of convicting? Proving someone is innocent.
Yeah.
This evidence that Nick Nolte had access to that he did not show the judge might have shown that Robert De Niro was not guilty, but Nick Nolte thought he was, as his defense attorney, thought that Robert De Niro's character, this like skeevy guy, was guilty, so he didn't turn in this evidence, and then caused Robert De Niro to be in prison for 14 years. And in those 14 years, Robert De Niro like gets super jacked, and his only mission is to fuck up Nick Nolte when he gets out. And he covers himself in tattoos that are all these like biblical references of revenge and like death, and he tattoos love and hate on his knuckles. And this movie is so I didn't realize, having not seen it for like until now, that its influence is everywhere. Like that's a trope, like love and hate on your knuckles, that you're like a bad
yeah,
dude.
I was gonna say
that's like a trope in a million movies. There's so many shots in this movie too that you see in movies now that convey like some sort of like foreboding emotion. Like there's a scene where Robert De Niro gets out of prison after 14 years at the beginning of the movie, and he like walks out of the gates, and the guards are like, "Is anyone coming to pick you up?" And Robert De Niro's like, "Nope." And then he just walks straight into the camera. But in like this very, like that shot conveys this very like menacing emotion that like, oh, Robert De Niro's like, he's going to do something right now. And the thing he goes to do is like fuck up Nick Nolte, but not in like I'm just going to go beat the shit out of this guy kind of way. In a, like, I'm going to harass this guy in ways that are just about legal until he like goes crazy. And then I'm going to kill him. Like, I want to put this guy through absolute misery. Like, I'm going to like kill his cat without anyone noticing. And he does a whole bunch of other stuff. He like tries to seduce his daughter. Like Nick Nolte's daughter is this 16-year-old girl or 15-year-old girl. And he tries to like seduce this girl like behind his back. And like his wife too, I think. And it's a really cool movie, really well done. Another like iconic just like movie trope that came from this movie is there's this scene where the whole family is just scared for their lives. Like this Robert De Niro character keeps harassing them and like maybe like breaking into their house. They don't feel safe in their house, and they leave, and they have this houseboat. So they drive like from wherever they live in like central Florida to the coast in Florida. Everyone's wearing like Hawaiian shirts in this movie. It's very like Floridian. And they drive to get away. So like Robert De Niro cannot like find us here. We're going to just go out to like our houseboat in the middle of this river. But Robert De Niro fucking straps himself to the bottom of their car, and like on this road trip just like is under their car and follows them that way. And that's just like someone slyly strapping themselves under a car or like a train or something. It's like a trope you see in a million movies. I think like I can't think of one off the top of my head.
I feel like that's kind of extreme. I don't know if that's a trope, but I mean, like, I do remember that them getting on the boat and Robert De Niro is like swimming after them or some shit, some crazy shit like that.
Yeah, at the climax of the movie, there's like a big fight on this houseboat, and it's special effects are crazy. There's this big storm. It's a good movie. I would recommend people see it, and you'll probably recognize all of these like cinematic tropes that. Yeah,
that sounds good.
May not have known it came from.
Watch it.
Yeah, I think you'd really like it. I don't remember what I watched it on. It was either Shudder
It's
or
on Netflix.
Netflix. Okay, yeah, it's probably Netflix. Very good movie. I would say it's a Hubie light. So I also watched. I've been counting 2 hours of a horror TV show as a movie. So I rewatched The Haunting of Hill House, which is an excellent TV show on Netflix that you should check out if you love horror. I rewatched that whole first season. It was excellent. Matt, you saw Haunting of Hill House, right?
No, I'm halfway through it. I watched Bly Manor this past couple weeks, and then I just started Haunting of Hill House like right after because Bly Manor was really good, and I'm really liking Hill House. The first episode of Hill House, I remembered. I tried watching it when it first came out, and that first episode sucks. Like
what?
It's slow. It's slow and it's not very interesting. And it made me think the whole show is going to be like that. But now, like after like, I think halfway through episode 2, I was like, okay, I'm in. I just watched Nell's episode.
Oh my dude, the bent neck lady. The name of that episode is the bent neck
lady. Oh my god, it's so good.
It's that episode has one of the best horror movie, TV show, whatever, horror media shots I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
You know what? Like if you've seen that episode, you know what I'm talking about. Have you seen this, Dan? Have you seen the show?
No. What show is this?
It's called The Haunting of Hill House. It's about this family who moves into this mansion to renovate it, to like do a fixer-upper in the like 80s. And it's so haunted that it corrupts a bunch of people in the house and they have to leave. And it just fucks up their whole lives.
What level haunted? What level you think?
Like 9 or 10.
Like Hubie 10.
Yeah, I would say it's
level
like
10 haunted.
Yeah, it's like level 10, more haunted than
not even
werewolf
Hubie would
house
monitor
next
it.
to Hubie's. Yeah, Hubie would be like, this is not safe.
Yeah.
The werewolf house in Hubie is probably like haunted 4 or 5, right?
Yeah, that's haunted 4 or 5 because it's Steve Buscemi and he's like a known quantity. Also Rob Schneider. Okay, so let's go back to Hubie Halloween for a minute.
Oh my god.
So throughout the whole movie, Hubie thinks that this like mysterious werewolf guy is abducting people, but you, the viewer, know that at the beginning of the movie, Ben Stiller played an orderly at a mental hospital who's checking in on a patient, but that patient had faked their like body under the covers, so it looked like they were sleeping with a bunch of green jello. And Ben Stiller's like, oh no, that guy was crazy and he escaped. So, like, okay, the guy abducting people is definitely this guy who escaped. Turns out the guy who left the insane asylum was Steve Buscemi's old roommate who was also a werewolf, but Rob Schneider only left the mental institution to go get Steve Buscemi because he escaped and he just like missed him as a roommate. So he just like was going to get him back. So that's Hubie Halloween, but
but Haunting a Hill House,
very good. House, so good. Like I would call Haunting of Hill House a like prestige TV show in the same way that like The Leftovers, like an HBO show, is like gunning for all the awards. Like Haunting of Hill House struck me in that way. The cast is like top notch. They do this really cool thing. So the show takes place in 2 time periods. The childhood of this family where they live in this haunted house for a while, and then their adulthood where you see like how that childhood like left them as adults, like how it affected them. And like one of the kids like turned out to be a drug addict. The other is like really psychologically messed up and like going through all these different phases trying to fix it. They all kind of hate each other. But a really cool thing the show does is that the actors who play the child version and the adult version look like they could have been like CGI'd. Like they look like how Joseph Gordon-Levitt was like CGI'd to look like Bruce Willis really well in Looper. They all look like they look just like the child version of the actor who they grow into. I don't know how they did it. It's like some of the best casting.
Side note,
I don't think Luke does, but
Luke. Yeah, that's a good point. But he was so young. When he was a child. But what's that, Dan?
Oh, I could be wrong about this, but I'm like 90% sure. Fun fact about Looper, that's not CGI. That's actually makeup.
Oh, yeah. Wow. It's really good makeup. I don't think they used makeup here. I think the casting was just really good, which is funny because who directed Boyhood? What director directed Boyhood?
Some
That movie?
fucking guy, I don't know.
Some fucking guy. That fucking clown could have just hired the casting department for Hill House and not waited 15 years to film this movie. Like, he didn't have to follow a kid as he grew up. He could have just hired the Hill House casting director. Like, what? Okay, but yeah, so Hill House, basically, like, the ghosts from this house kind of follow these people throughout their lives and fuck them up. And it's really just really, really good. How would you describe it, Matt? Like, what would your pitch for Hill House be?
Oh, I don't know. It's just it's probably the best horror TV show I've ever seen. Like, because there's not a whole lot, which is kind of the problem. But like, the only one I'd really seen before this would be like American Horror Story.
Oh,
and
it's
even
so much
that,
better. It's so much better than that.
Yeah, like American Horror Story is like good, but you need to. It's like a bad. It just turned into like a series of like bad B movies.
Yeah.
You know, where like it's a lot of camp, and a huge issue with American Horror Story is like they'll typically a season will have like 3 or 4 different plots, and they don't pace them well, and they'll all like maybe relate to each other, but sometimes it feels like you're seeing a bunch of like different stories that just take place in the setting they made, but then they try to make sense of it later. Like season 4. Did you guys ever watch season 4 of American Horror Story?
Was that the circus?
The freak
one?
show? Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. Fucking that season, like all the marketing was around this fucking clown. Like this scary ass clown that's like killing people in the woods.
A
and then
clown
it's
isn't
over
scary if he looks scary. You know what I mean? Like, the fact that his costume that he like went out to a store and bought already looks scary disqualifies him from being a scary clown.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever. Like it looks scary, and it like was a creepy thing, and then it turned out that was like a 3-episode arc, and then we just care about the fucking circus people. Like it's just shit like that. Like there's no, like it was just an odd way to pace a show. And what's nice about so far Hill House and what was Bly Manor was it's paced pretty well, and it also tells individual stories per episode, because episodes are typically wrapped around a character, and you'll see, like they do it a lot in Hill House right now, where you'll watch an episode about a character and you see like scenes from the kids, scenes from present day, and scenes from like at some other point in their adulthood. And it will always jump around, but because they have that mixed narrative that's constantly going on, you're like getting more background information, and it's pushing the story forward, but like all the episodes are self-contained.
Yeah, it like falls, the episodes kind of fall into each other, where like the story of Haunting of Hill House really takes place over like 2 days. There's the day that the family had to leave the haunted house because the ghosts were up to some shit, and a day where one of the family members dies as an adult, and the family like meets for a funeral after kind of being estranged from each other because their childhoods were so messed up. And each episode is about like one of those characters, and it's about their childhood and about their adulthood and like how they got there. And like it's kind of like this is a bad comparison, but it's kind of like the 4th season or 5th season of Arrested Development. How like things you see in one episode, like you watch like the first episode and you're like, that didn't make a ton of sense, but like it was pretty funny. And then in the next episode, like something that happened in the first episode, you see the context around that thing, and it makes the first episode make sense. Like that's Hill House. Like Hill House just like keeps like
a little less
itself.
Though. You can watch Arrested Development out of order, and it will make sense. I think this one you would lose a lot of context.
Sure. Yeah, so it's not the best comparison, but it's cool how it like folds into itself. All of the episodes with the following the family members. But Bly Manor, it's also like an anthology show. So like the same showrunner, Mike Flanagan, who is a movie director too. He directed Dr. Sleep, which is on my list this month. I have not seen. It's the sequel to The Shining. Heard it's actually good. He directed that. He directed Gerald's Game, which is a pretty good horror movie on Netflix. I would recommend, about a girl or a woman
named Gerald
in Hill House. Named Gerald. No, her woman married to Gerald.
She plays a video game.
No, it's not a video game. It's a sex game.
What?
Yeah.
Boner.
So, let's just say if you If you fancy a boner, you'll love Gerald's Game.
Oh,
I won't say
fancy a
anything else.
boner.
Yeah, who doesn't? Oh, another thing about Hubie Halloween. This movie's
Damn it.
okay. So the only shtick, what makes it so surprising.
You're like blown away by this movie. I can't believe it.
So what makes the ending of Hubie Halloween so surprising, where the mom all of a sudden is trying to teach everyone a lesson about like how nice her son is that the only thing that the mom does the whole movie is walk into frame. Hubie lives with his mother, Mrs. Dubois. She'll walk into frame and have a t-shirt on that she'll be like, oh, I just bought this at the thrift store. And it'll be like, I forget what it is exactly, but like in one of the first such t-shirts just says like boner patrol or something like that. And Hubie will be like, Mom, why do you have a shirt that says boner patrol? And she'll be like, oh, I thought boner meant mistake. So it's like, I'm on the mistake patrol. And then like throughout the rest of the movie, Hubie, whenever he makes a mistake, and spoiler, he makes a lot of them, he's like, oh, I made another boner. And then people around him are like, what?
Wait, what? He said boner.
Yeah. So yeah, the ending is very confusing because it's like this woman who you just knew as the thrift shop lady who says boner wrong. She's all of a sudden trying to teach you a lesson. But we're talking about boners here. So if you fancy a boner, check out Gerald's Game by Mike Flanagan, the showrunner of Haunting of Hill House, and the next like quote unquote season that's called The Haunting of Bly Manor that shares a lot of the same cast of The Haunting of Hill House, not the whole cast, like not the whole family, but a lot of them play completely different characters in another haunted house in The Haunting of Bly Manor. Now, Matt, I told you about Haunting of Hill House, and I was like, oh yeah, it's a really cool like haunted house show, and they're making another season that's an anthology, and it's like just the only similarity is that it has a similar cast and is about a haunted house. And you were hesitant because you were like, oh well, how much can they do with like the haunted house trope? Now I haven't seen Bly Manor, so how do you think it is?
Oh, they can do a lot. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I mean, I was kind of just basing it off of like, I don't know. I was picturing this show would be like American Horror Story at first, where I was like, oh, they're going to try to do like another murder house or something. But it's like a completely different context, time period, everything. They do a good job with it.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's not as horror-ish, though.
That's what I keep hearing. I keep hearing it's more of a
I like
gothic
it, though.
romance.
I really liked it.
Than a ghost story?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's like the end thesis statement.
Oh, interesting.
I told you it was a horror story, but with actually a love
And then me, the man watching it, I'm like, ugh, love story? Ugh. And then I'd be pissed. I'm not going to watch that shit.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I also watched Lovecraft Country was another movie, or was another TV series that I counted, except for one episode. There's one episode, I don't know if you're caught up, but the last episode I did not find to be like a horror episode. Like it didn't really, that's the Lovecraft Country, which we've talked about on the show before. Won't get into it, but it like each episode is kind of like a different genre, like subgenre of horror that they play upon with a black cast. So it's like typically like a horror subgenre that hasn't had like black representation before, which is pretty cool. Matt just watched it. What'd you think, Matt?
I thought it was pretty good. Lot lighter on the horror though. It has like horror aspects, I guess. There's like witches and like spooky monsters sometimes, but I don't know. Some are definitely more horror-ish than the others, but like the one where they go into the tunnels, that's
more
like,
of an Indiana
like,
Jones movie.
Yeah, but it's like it's not a horror thing.
Yeah,
right?
I did. For instance, for this list, I did not count that episode as
and then the sci-fi
horror.
episode.
I didn't count that one either.
I thought was kind of dumb.
No, like I counted there's like a shapeshifter episode. I counted that as a horror episode along with
God, dude. Oh, the shapeshift. Dane, you gotta watch Lovecraft Country.
Lovecraft Country is really good.
It has some really good CGI.
Oh yeah,
it's pretty cool.
The shapeshifter, dude, is it's
and then I also counted the succubus, not succubus, the like Korean succubus nine-tail spirit that
Yeah, I mean,
kills
the
people.
Western equivalent would be like a succubus. So
Yeah,
I think that's fine.
that episode I counted as a horror as well. But then this most recent one, which is interestingly within the same like 365 days, HBO has put out 2 big budget adaptations of the Tulsa Massacre. This most recent episode is about the Tulsa Massacre, and I did not count that as a horror.
Okay,
episode.
that is exciting though. That sounds like a cool episode.
It is really good. It is really good. I would say if I had to choose, but there's no point really in like ranking, like comparing Watchmen to Lovecraft Country because they're extremely different shows. But in terms of depictions of the Tulsa Massacre, I liked the Watchmen version, the Watchmen's vision of it, better than Lovecraft Country's. But this episode was it was a great episode. You got to check it out.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Rules. So I've been watching Lovecraft Country as well. One more episode left. Very excited for that to end. I'll probably go and rewatch the whole series after that. After it ends.
Well, you got to rapid fire your list. We've been on movies for like
An
ever
hour.
now.
Yeah, remember when we said we were going to talk about video games?
Fuck. Okay, so speaking of video games, Dane, I see in the Discord, has messaged about how for promoting Hubie Halloween, Netflix posted Hubie's Animal Crossing Island.
I hate
You
this
can go
trend.
and visit.
I hate
Yeah.
this trend. It got old after KFC did it.
But dude, T-Pain is gonna be there.
Yeah, but like, have you seen Joe Biden's Animal Crossing
Yeah,
Island?
it's pretty cringe. It's pretty cringe.
They
Like
clearly
AOC had
hire
one
like people who know how to make Animal Crossing islands to just do it.
It seems
Yeah.
so inconvenient. Like, how do you queue? How do you queue for this line? Also,
Well, no,
have you
they
played
added
Animal
dreams,
Crossing
Matt.
multiplayer?
Matt, they added dreams, so you're not actually going to the island. You're going to like
Yeah,
your own
the-
instance of the island.
You
All
can
right,
go
all right.
to, you can upload the island now.
This is bad because when KFC did it, it was before that. And I was like,
Oh,
wow,
boy.
that must be awful to get into. Like,
No, it'd be impossible. Because
be
only
like
10
selling-
people can be there or whatever.
I always
and
thought that they just streamed like some guy touring it and you could go watch the video. But yeah, now that they have got dreams, it's much easier to share that stuff.
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So
Yeah.
Vote for Joe Biden, please. Also, I watched Color Out of Space. So I have not watched Mandy yet. That's the other Nicolas Cage movie on my list. But I watched Color Out of Space, which is a pretty okay movie on Shudder. It came out like last year. Nicolas Cage. I read a review of Color Out of Space after I watched it that mentioned that during the filming of Color Out of Space, which is a H.P. Lovecraft adaptation starring Nicolas Cage was in some level of production in 6 other movies. Wild. But yeah, it's this Lovecraft adaptation about a guy who owns a farm, an alpaca farm, and a like meteorite hits his farm and it's this glowing purple rock, and it like turns everything. It kind of is like Annihilation. Like this rock radiates this space color that like mutates things into the alpacas, like their skin falls off and they turn into mutants and shit and make everyone go crazy. And it felt like a higher budget B movie. It was okay. I didn't really love it, but it was fine. Go check out Color Out of Space if you want, if you like Nicolas Cage wiling out. I also watched a really shitty movie called Occult from 2009. It's a Japanese found footage movie. Who I sent the last scene of this to Matt, and it's amazing. It looks like if you've seen Hausu, the Japanese movie, it looks like the special effects from that, but only in this one scene. This is like a 2-hour long found footage movie, which is too long for a found footage movie. And the very last scene is just wild. You know, if anything, go and skip to the last 10 minutes of that movie and watch it. It is really weird. That can vouch for this. But otherwise did not like Occult from 2009. Let's see. I also watched Evil Dead. An amazing movie. Go watch Evil
Classic
Dead.
or remake?
Classic. The classic 1981.
Okay.
Can't say enough good things about Evil Dead. It's horror camp, like distilled. It is probably one of the best campy horror movies. It's a prototype for Cabin in the Wood movies. Go watch Evil Dead with Bruce Campbell. Let's see. I have notes on it, but none of them are that funny. There's a chainsaw in this movie. I think I wrote the Tennessee Chainsaw Massacre because it takes place in Tennessee, and
What
but
a
he
zinger.
doesn't use the chainsaw is the thing. It's like the Tennessee Chainsaw Massacre that didn't occur. that is not of note. He doesn't use
Just
the
an
chainsaw until the second
homage.
movie. Yeah, it's a nod. It's like a little Easter egg because in the second movie he straps it to his arm. Then I watched The Hills Have Eyes, and that's the last horror movie that I've watched. We did it. The Hills Have Eyes is
So
cool.
proud of you.
So what I want to mention about The Hills Have Eyes is that you guys have seen Scream, right? I know, Matt, you said that's one of your favorite horror movies.
Yeah, I really liked Hills Have Eyes too. I've seen
The
it
original,
before.
the 1977.
Yes. Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah.
there's a remake from like 2005 ish. That's pretty good too. But the 1977. Dane, have you seen Scream?
Yeah, the first one,
Mhm.
and that was a pretty long time ago. But yeah, I've seen the first one.
So the guy who directed Scream in like the early 2000s, late 90s, he also directed Wes Craven. He also directed A Nightmare on Elm Street, I believe. I think this was one of his first movies. In 1978, The Hills Have Eyes. It's pretty good. It came out. It's definitely inspired by, definitely heavily influenced by the Texas Chainsaw Massacre because it's about these like sunburnt hillbillies, cannibals, out in this case in like Nevada or like Southern California somewhere in the desert. Matt, what did you think of The Hills Have Eyes?
Oh, it's been so long ago. All I remember is that I liked it. I thought it was good.
Yeah, it's a cool movie. It's just this family. They're on a road trip and their car breaks down in the middle of the desert and they get attacked by these like mutant cannibals. So it's like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but the mutant cannibals come to you rather than you going into their house.
And there's no musical scene.
And there's no musical scene a la the Breakfast Club-esque sequel to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Go watch that. But yeah, so those are my 14 movies for the Halloween grab bag so far. It's been good. Oh, and also The Void. I watched The Void. That was really, really good. That's probably
good.
the best movie that I haven't seen that I watched this month. It's
Sweet.
fucking awesome.
Well, that's going to get replaced by Bone Tomahawk when you watch it.
Yeah.
You better watch it this year.
I will watch it. I'm really stoked to watch that. I'm really stoked. I'm really excited to watch that and Mandy, Bone Tomahawk and Mandy this month. Those are movies that I have not seen that I think I'll really love. I'm going to watch The Exorcist. I haven't seen that. It's like a movie I feel like every horror fan should probably have seen, and I have not, so I'm going to watch that too. So I look forward to another me rattling off the horror movies that I've watched next week. So do you guys remember over an hour ago when we said we were going to talk about other things besides my Halloween movie update?
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a long time ago that I struggle to recall, but
I'm stretching my brain trying to think about it.
Yeah, I'm stretching my brain boner a la the pineal gland from Beyond. And it's telling me that Dane, you and I this week played quite a bit separately, distinctly, discreetly of Hades. Tell me what you think about Hades. I played in early access and I loved it. This is your first time playing it? You did not play early access?
Yeah, I only actually heard about it like probably the day that it came out of early access because I think everybody was just like, "Oh, it's a real game. Now we can play it." But yeah, I started hearing about it then. Like I didn't even really know about the game until like I don't know, a couple weeks ago. And I was like had it on the back burner of like, "Oh, I should try that game out" because lately I've been getting into a lot of roguelikes. I mean, we've probably talked about them before, but Risk of Rain 2 kind of opened my eyes to the concept of them a little bit. I tried to get into what's that one game that's like a dungeon crawler and you play as like the Bible thump character.
Diablo?
the Bible thump emote on Twitch. What the hell is that game?
Binding of Isaac?
Yeah, Binding of Isaac. I tried playing that.
Yeah.
I tried playing that game and I couldn't get into it. And I think it was just because the controls I wasn't really into.
Yeah, it's like a twin stick shooter is the controls in that.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the twin stick thing. So I just didn't get into it. And it also kind of felt a little bit more like a bullet hell than anything.
Yeah, definitely.
And those kinds of games I don't like.
Hades has some bullet hell aspects to it for sure.
It does, and we'll get into that's probably one of the drawbacks of the game. If I had to name like things that I don't like about it, it's in the dungeons where it spawns a bunch of the bullet hell enemies all at once. Like the witches circle boss fight is awful. It's awful. It's not fun. It's just like not a fun boss fight at all. Because
and the bone,
they're just like,
just
projectiles
also,
everywhere, huh?
Yeah, it's the third stage of the Bone Hydra fight where there's like 6 mini hydras and they're all shooting stuff at you.
Yeah, that one's a little
it's
bit more
crazy.
manageable because at least a few of the bone hydras are on the other side of the map, so you can kind of have time to dodge the projectiles, and they're relatively slow moving.
Sure.
But yeah, there is like an aspect of that fight where I feel like I go into it knowing that I'm going to take damage. Like there's not really any way to avoid taking damage in that fight.
So,
But-
Dane, for people who haven't played it, can you just explain
Sure.
what Hades is?
So it's like a dungeon. I mean, like it's a roguelite. I don't really know what a roguelike is because I feel like I've only ever played the ones that people call a roguelite. But you start off at 0, and then as you move through dungeons, you get more loot, you get more upgrades to your character, and then you move on dungeon to dungeon until the end. And when you die, you have to start over. I mean, that's pretty much the definition of a roguelite as far as I know,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
But it's also heavily narrative driven. Apparently, I don't really know very much about the developers. Super
Oh, they're
awesome,
so
big,
cool.
super big, super big, awesome, epic games. What's it called?
Super giant games.
Super giant games. Apparently, they've made a bunch of other games that are very narrative driven. I've never played any of them, but
Some bangers. They did Bastion, Transistor, and Pyre before this.
yeah. So apparently, those are all more narrative driven. Is from what I can tell, based on like the very limited knowledge that I have about it. So it's very clear that they were still going to utilize all of that talent and that stuff in this game, and it actually shines. It really shows through. Like I did not expect to like the story or the characters of this game because I'm not a big fan of like cell shaded like anime-ish kind of art styles most of the time. But this is it is very like aesthetically pleasing for the most part. Like the art is actually very pretty. And I could probably do without like the character design aesthetic. Like I could take it or leave it. But they do a really good job of designing like established characters because it's like based on Greek mythology.
What do you mean when you say you could take or leave the character design aesthetic?
Like it's kind of like anime like. I don't know how to describe it. Like
It looks like fan art to me. Like it looks like
Yeah,
stuff
exactly.
you would see on DeviantArt, but really polished.
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of, I don't know, it's very overdone, I think. And so it didn't really stand out to me, but I do like the way the characters are written, and it kind of grows on you over time. So it's not really that big a deal. But I took one look at the art style, and I was just like, yeah, I'm not going to really care about the storyline of this game. Like, I don't know. Immediately, I was just like, it's probably going to be some anime game that I don't really care about. But I'm going to try the game for the gameplay because I like roguelites rather. And I've been hearing that it's really well made, and it's been in early access for like 2 years. So they've been polishing a lot of the balance and stuff. So by now, it should be like a good like game to play. But when you play through it, it's really interesting. Like there's a hub world that's kind of the house that you start in. I mean, the plot of the game is pretty simple. It's like you're Hades' son, and you want to get out of hell. You want to leave. You don't like it there, so you have to fight through all of the levels of hell to get out. You start from the bottom level, and then you go up like 3 levels, and then you have to fight Hades to get out. And if you die, you go back to the house of Hades, and it's kind of like the hub world where you can talk to a bunch of NPCs. You can talk to Hades, and he's just like, haha, you didn't make it out. You suck. And there's a bunch of other characters that you can interact with. You can like talk to the bosses that you had previously fought. I think you mostly just talk to one of the bosses, but and you can like every single time you do a run, every time you go back to the hub world, almost all of the NPCs have something to say, or the NPCs move around, and like I think that that's really interesting because another rogue video game that I like to play is Slay the Spire, and that has absolutely no storyline to it. It's just you start a run, and then you go, and then whenever you die, you go back to the main menu, and then you can click play again. And I realized playing this game that it's like more addictive if you have something to do in between runs, because I don't know, after you die in like a roguelike, if you spend like 40 minutes on a run and then you died in some bullshit way, it's a little harder, I think, to press play again if you have to like press it immediately. That makes sense. Like a lot of Slay the Spire runs end after like a couple tries for me because it's just like, damn it, I didn't make it. And then you don't really have a whole lot of time to cool down. I don't know if that makes it, that's
No, I get
relatable
what
to
you're
anybody.
saying. It's negative space.
Yeah. It's like you have time to kind of cool down and like re-examine your guy. You can go back into the like your room and go to the mirror and upgrade your skills. You can go around and kind of like forget about the gameplay for a bit and kind of like progress the storyline. And then by the time you've done all that, you kind of are ready to go again. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of a nice little break. And not a whole lot of rogue lights have that break aspect. Like I love Risk of Rain 2, but after you die in Risk of Rain 2, you just go back to the main menu and you can press play again, and there isn't really a whole lot of natural breaks. I mean, you have to physically decide like to get up and go get some water or something, but the game kind of like leads you into those breaks, and I think that's really it really lends to like the replayability in like long sessions for me because it kind of makes it makes the like highs and lows have these really established like peaks and valleys that are really I don't know, really satisfying. And not to mention, I mean, we talked a little bit about this over text, but it also helps a lot that the characters are really well designed and really well written and really well voice acted. Like they really went all out on making the story aspect of the game like actually interesting on its own instead of just being tacked on, which I think is great. It's really difficult and really rare, I think, for a game to have like really good gameplay and really good writing. Like, I don't know, I feel like one of those has to be tacked on most of the time, especially for indie studios. So it's pretty impressive that they were able to like pull it off, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think like this whole the whole game feels like all of the systems in it live together rather than like toggling through menus of like, oh, I want to do this, I want to equip that. There are menus and you do equip things, but it all just kind of feels like what would happen in that world. Like in the world of Hades, when you die in the underworld, you like wake back up again. You emerge from a pool of blood and like are still alive because that's like the torment of being in hell. And every time you die in this game, like you come back from the pool of blood, and then there's like the Greek god of sleep is like, oh, you just got fucked up by like the bone hydra. Like that must suck. The bone hydra is the worst. And everyone is talking to each other, and the story keeps building on itself, and like other characters are aware of like the fact that you keep dying, and their relationship with you builds as you die because you're still the same character. It's like Groundhog Day, where everyone knows that you're repeating the same day, including you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it like the characters are also likable. There's only a handful that I don't like absolutely love. Like it's really hard to like pick your favorite Greek god because like the way to power up your builds, like the thing that makes it one of the things that makes it a roguelike is that during each run where you're trying to escape, they're called escape attempts. During each escape attempt, you get power-ups by calling upon gods of Olympus who are trying to help you like leave the underworld because there's some sort of story that's unraveled as you die and play again about how like why exactly you're leaving the underworld and why these gods want to help you, and you call on their help and they give you like boons, like they give you these power-ups that give you different powers and abilities during your run, and those are removed when you die. But like it's not just like in Risk of Rain, for instance, like you open a vending machine and you put like a like a doodad on your head and a necklace on, and all of a sudden you have power up X and power up Y. Like the power ups you get are all contextualized by the things that your character is doing in the story really well. Like the contextualizing of things in this game I've never really seen before. And I've played a lot of roguelikes and a lot of just games in general, and I think that's just a unique thing about Hades is that like it feels like the characters and the world are building out these systems for you
Yeah.
it's really fun.
Well, the power ups in Hades, I think, are more akin to Slay the Spire because it's
I
like,
haven't played it.
oh, okay. Well, Slay the Spire is half roguelike, half deck building game. But I mean, like the cards that you get into your deck. I mean, like once you surpass 30 cards in your deck, like you're kind of stacking your deck you're like over packing your deck. So like you only really have a handful literally of powers. Risk of Rain is definitely designed in a way where it's just like the entire point is just kind of like find as many like things as possible and then just like stack them as much as possible to the point where you're like unstoppable. That's the entire point of the game. But with this game, it's definitely more subtle. Like each power up does something significant, but not too significant, if that makes sense. Like it's always like just enough to get you past the next part, but not enough to make you like totally overpowered. And the part that makes the character work is usually correctly choosing other boons to work with the build that you're going for and stuff like that, instead of just picking whatever. So I don't know. It's definitely a little bit more, you have to be a little bit more precise, I think, with your choices rather than like Risk of Rain, which is basically just like, oh, I opened like 10 vending machines and I only got like 2 good items, but that's good enough, you know? Like if you choose wrong, if you like get a bad, if you get like 3 bad boons in a row, then like you're probably going to lose your run. Like you have to be a little bit more precise and you have to be a little bit more smart about what you're choosing instead of just kind of like, I don't know, spamming through, like just running through levels and like just picking whatever.
Yeah, it's like it's a little less random than just like cracking open loot that you might in another roguelike. Like in Binding of Isaac, for instance, like you just walk into a room and there might, like after you defeat all the enemies, there might be an item that'll help you, or there might not. In Hades, every single room gives you the choice, for the most part, of what reward you're going to get for clearing the next room. So you're not like breaking open vases and stuff to pop out items, or like opening vending machines like you might in Risk of Rain. You're choosing like what your fate is after the end of the next room.
Yeah, it's kind of it's pretty cool. I do like it, and it feels like they've really fine-tuned the ability to make your own destiny, and that's like the thing that I sometimes like struggle to play the roguelike video game sometimes if I'm just like, if I feel like there isn't a whole lot of agency, which is something I learned from it's a word that I learned from the Risk of Rain devs, because they apparently in their 1.0 update, they were just like, we wanted to improve player agency, which basically just meant like the feeling of control of your own run or your own destiny when it comes to like choosing things. You don't want to feel like you're at the mercy of RNG when you play these games. I mean, even though it is intentionally like entirely based around randomness, I feel like the real sweet spot of making those kinds of games good is making sure that there is a random element to it, but you want the player to feel like they can make their own luck. And I feel like Hades does a really good job of doing that. Like you don't really feel out of control that much, and you can look back on your run and say like, oh, I could have played that better, or I could have done something better. And that's really good. I think that that's really like kind of difficult to do. So it's pretty impressive. I never played it during early access, but I'm sure that all of that like fine tuning happened during that period of the game. So I'm really glad that it was an early access, and I'm really glad that there are a lot of people who probably suffered through all of the early parts of the game where there probably wasn't a whole lot of player agency, and it definitely did feel a little bit more random. And it's cool that they clearly, and maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like they went out of their way to make sure that you definitely feel a little bit more in control of the chaos, but it's still got chaotic elements to it that are interesting, at least.
Yeah, they've definitely fine-tuned it since the last I played, which wasn't that long ago. It was probably like within a year that I played it. It's been in beta or in early access for 2 years, but like I think Supergiant Games is a studio that has a lot of goodwill from the video game community, and when they make something, people generally get pretty excited about it, to the point where like almost a year ago at this point, like 7-8 months ago. Matt and I were at PAX East in Boston, and this is, you know, like 7-8 months before this game even came out. Like there was people cosplaying Hades at PAX East. Do you remember that, Matt? Yeah, it's just like Supergiant games, just people like them, and I think that led to a really successful early access like feedback cycle. Like if you can actually watch it. One of the coolest parts about Hades, in my opinion, as a total nerd for this stuff, is that there's a whole documentary series about its early access journey, about all of the updates. Like for the most part, so the way that early access worked is they would have a big update that introduced like a new god or a new part of the game. So for instance, there was one of the later updates they did that I played was called like the Long Night, I think, update, where they introduced the character of Nyx, who is like your mother character in the game, who is one of these Greek god characters who's floating around in the like hub world in the beginning of the game. They fleshed out her character and added a whole bunch of stuff with her and other characters and other features, but it's centered around her being added as a character. And the documentary series that NoClip produced on Netflix, or on YouTube, that you should check out. I think it's called Hades Developing Hell. It's like a probably 5 or 6 part documentary series.
Yeah, I'm on like ongoing. Part 3 right now.
It's really dope. The Supergiant Games, the studio, is really small, but everyone there seems like they are extremely good at what they do, and it's really interesting to hear them talk about the design decisions that were made during the early access period for different parts of the game. I am really impressed with Hades. It feels, as someone who has like kind of paid attention to Supergiant Games since they put out their first game, Bastion, in like 2000 and like I want to say somewhere between 2008 and 2010. It's pretty cool to see them continue to build upon their success in really positive ways. And it seems like Hades is kind of the culmination of the journey that Supergiant Games has gone through so far. Having gone through like the first 3 episodes of the documentary, like how do you feel about Supergiant Games, Dane?
I think they're great. Like they're like the definition of what indie games is to me. Like that's what like every indie developer should strive to be is that studio. Like the vibe, everybody having like their own job. Like I think that there's like some indie game studios seem to have this idea that like being an indie developer means that there's like 1 or 2 guys that does everything. And I feel like that is actually kind of a weakness of a lot of indie games. And you can kind of tell when a game is made by like 2 people who are just like doing everything. I think a good sweet spot of like an indie developer is like 10 people and each person is designated like one job and then they're just really good at their job. Except in the case of Supergiant, there's one guy who does like a million different things, but he's like a freak of nature. The sound developer guy. Apparently he edits all of the sound, he mixes all of the sound, he writes and composes all of the music. He like voices like 3 or 4 different characters, including the main character. And that man is.
So he's the audio guy.
Yeah, he's just
the audio guy.
He's the audio guy. Like if it's sound, then he's in charge of it, which I think is like overkill. But apparently they found Superman to work on their game, so whatever.
And the music in any Supergiant game,
it's so good.
It is.
It's like this like bluegrass like steel string guitar, but also metal. It's Hades' music is
Hades
just
music
awesome.
is so great.
It's great. I have it up like at 100%, and I play it at full blast when I play the game.
You guys gotta look for that audio thing I was talking about. This was another PPC, but I've only watched Hades, which is why I haven't contributed a whole lot to this conversation because like.
You said you were watching your friends play it for like 20 hours or something.
That counts as playing,
which is crazy.
No, because like I don't know how builds work. I know how bosses are and runs, but like I was viewing it at the point where my friends are able to like finish a run, like probably like 80% of the time.
Yeah.
So later game.
So late game. And so I saw like the end of the game and then like the end of the game plot, like all the stuff that comes after. Which is why I'm discouraged, because it's like such a cool, it's like it's a perfect template for like the story makes sense, the world makes sense for like this character to keep doing this thing and have a story go through. And so I'm bummed that I watched that because now I can't experience it. You know what I mean?
It's so good, man.
No, I know.
It's kind of like if you watch a movie before you read the book that inspired the movie. I feel like it'd be like that experience where if the book is good enough, you're still gonna love it.
Oh yeah, and
Hades
the
is good
game
enough, I
looks
think you would.
sick, but like it's just that fact that it's like, oh, I've seen how, I don't know, like I've seen how good this story is told contextually, like in this game. Like it makes sense that when you die, you come back, and then everybody's like, "Good fucking job, idiot!" Like you're never gonna get out of here. like it's cool that you can have people just like they will respond to what you've done, and like you can go do quests for them, and so when you die, like you'll come back and do it again. But the reason I chimed in was the one thing that I don't know if I like, but it's like it's jarring, but it sounds really cool. It's when there's that like heavy like metal Hades music. Whenever like Hades or your character talks, they will like just dip it really quick, and you'll hear the voice line where like, but the music's still going in the background, maybe like 5%. And then as soon as the voice clip is over, it'll just like ramp back up. And it's like kind of jarring, but at the same time, it like, I don't know, it feels like really epic in a way. But I heard it so many times watching my friends go through that Hades battle that it just stuck out to me. And I'm surprised you guys hadn't noticed it.
No, I have noticed it, but it hasn't been a problem for me. I think because like you describe it as epic, and that's a really good way to describe Hades, because it just feels like you are on a mission in Hades. Like there's all these cool touches where Zagreus, the main character, he is just like all he wants to do is escape the realm of Hades, like to the point where there's all this furniture, all these like big cushy couches and tables and chairs in the like hub area in like the palace in Hades, and you can't sit in any of these chairs. Like other characters can, but anytime you go up to a chair and interact with it to sit in it, Zagreus is like, no, I gotta get out of here. Like I don't have time to sit. So like the whole and like the design of the game is built around this too, where you're going forward room to room. It's not like Diablo where you're exploring around in all these like this huge like catacomb where you need to comb every corner. No, you are going like from one end of a room to another and repeating that like 100 times, because like you're just getting the fuck out of town. So it feels epic. So whenever you're interrupted by like you're going through a room and you just beat it, and then your dad like comes on the intercom basically and is like, son, like stop trying to escape, I'll get you. It adds to that, and I like it. I think it's a cool effect.
Yeah, no, I like it too. It's just I haven't, like, if they hadn't nailed it though, I think it would sound shitty, which is why it's cool.
It's a flex.
So,
yeah.
It is a flex. Yeah, because that sound guy is so fucking good.
Yeah.
Shout out to he's Superman.
Friend of the pod, whatever that guy's name is. Very cool. Very cool. Keep it up. Proud of you. So Hades, honestly, I've seen a lot of people say that Hades is their game of the year, and I don't blame them, honestly. It's not my game of the year. My game of the year so far is The Last of Us Part 2, because that's just one of the best like movies or games I've ever personally experienced. But Hades is really fucking good, and especially if you like dungeon crawlers. Like Dane, I know you had recently played your first dungeon crawler with Minecraft Dungeons. Like how would you say this compares to that? I know you really liked Minecraft Dungeons.
Well, ironically, Minecraft Dungeons is actually, I feel like, closer to the other game that we were going to talk about. And it's actually kind of a nice segue. I feel like Minecraft Dungeon prepared me for my experience of playing Rat Game.
Rat Game.
Vermintide.
Untitled Rat Game?
Yeah, Untitled Rat Game, aka Vermintide 2. Because that one has like RPG elements in it, and like there's like a loot grinding system. Like the gameplay is very similar to Left 4 Dead, where you're just trying to get to the end of the level and there's hordes of enemies running at you and you just kind of swipe at them with a big hammer. But the point of the game is very similar to Minecraft Dungeons, where at the end of the dungeon you get a loot crate and you open the loot and you get like an upgradable weapon, and then you have to like upgrade your character's power by upgrading all of your loot and all that stuff. It's very, and Minecraft Dungeons like prepared me for that concept because I had never played like a Diablo-like game before. So I was kind of on board with that immediately with that game. But I'm gonna be honest, like, I mean, have you played either of you played Vermintide 2?
Oh, I played a shit ton of Vermintide too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I love that game. Yeah, Gus didn't like it. I think he said he tried it.
No, I have not. Okay, so I won't say too much because I've honestly.
Oh,
not
you were
played
talking
it.
shit after seeing my gameplay. That's what it was.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we talked about this in the pod, and Matt edited in some footage of him playing it, and I love a good hammer fight where people are fighting with hammers. And it didn't seem like there was a good like smack, like a good impact on the rats that you are smashing with hammers.
I will tell
in
you,
Vermintide.
I will tell you this because I 100% understand what you were talking about, Gus. Because I watched these guys who play video games. Oni plays. He's like an animator, and he plays
He's
with
awesome.
a couple of he plays with a couple other animators that I really like Psychic Pebbles and Lyle McDoucheback. They played through. They have like 4 or 5 videos where they played through a couple levels of Vermintide, and I mean, I like those guys, so like I just like listening to them talk because they're funny. But the gameplay was very boring to me. I'd never even seen Vermintide before. I've heard people talk about it, but I've never even seen the gameplay. And watching it, I was just like, oh, this is just Left 4 Dead, but you don't have a gun. I mean, you can get a gun if you want, but it's not like, you're not like mowing people down with an AK. So, yeah, I don't know. It didn't really look that fun, but playing the game is different because I'd say that they have nailed the satisfying smack of a rat in the game, and that is why the game is fun. I think that the loot system is kind of boring. Personally, I think that unfortunately, I wish that the looting, the like finding new weapons and like upgrading your weapons and getting weapons with cool like stats on them and stuff. Ironically, I think like Minecraft Dungeons did it better. Like I had a lot more fun with the loot grind in Minecraft Dungeons than I have been having in Vermintide. However, what keeps me coming back to playing Vermintide 2 is that it's very satisfying to take a big sword and just kind of cleave through 10 or 15 rats and watch their heads fly off, and just do that repeatedly and just kind of like swing a giant pickaxe through a large group of rats. And the rat men are snarling at you, they're running at you, they're gnashing their little rat teeth, and you just kind of you take a big pickaxe and you swing it down on the rat's head, and it makes a big satisfying slack, like and the pickaxe goes through their brain, and you get to do that like 10 or 15 million times. And that's what's fun about the game. I mean, like, it's very, I don't know. A lot of people who play it a lot, like I've been playing it with my friend Gene, who is really big into the game, and he like talks endlessly about how intricate like the melee combat system is, and it can get very intricate, especially if you play certain characters, because there's like a block system and a parry system. However, I don't know. I don't really care about any of that. I just kind of like swinging my hammer and smashing rats. And you can
Dane,
do that.
Good man.
Dane, I'm gonna go on a limb. You know, I haven't played it myself, but you sound like a guy who appreciates a good rat smack with a hammer. So
Sure.
I'll give it a shot. I'll give Vermintide a shot. This is 2 people. I
Might as
trust
well.
saying it's a good rat smack.
Like,
You gotta play with friends though. It won't be fun by yourself.
100%. I mean, I've played it I played it by myself in like random lobbies, and I think the game is populated by a lot of people who play the game all the time. So like, it's very much the experience that I was having. It depends on who you play with, okay? Because I've been playing it with my friend who's very patient and he's very nice, and shout out to him. He's great. However, I guarantee you I would not like the game at all if I was just playing it with randoms who expect me to know what to do. Because
Yeah, where's the tome?
Yeah, where's it?
Where's the tome?
Yeah, it's like, where are you going? We're going to get a tome, or like, pick up this tome, dude. It's like, I don't want to pick it up. I don't know. It's very, I'd liken it to my experience of playing Left 4 Dead, which honestly, I'm going to be honest, I'm not a big Left 4 Dead fan for the sole reason that I don't play it that much. And if you don't play it that much, then it's not going to be fun because everybody else knows where to go and you don't. And if you don't know where to go, then you get tackled by a jockey and then everybody gets mad at you. And that can be the experience in Vermintide 2 100% if you don't play with friends who are very patient or just don't care if we win or lose, or if you're playing with people who don't care that we're playing on the baby normal difficulty. Because the normal difficulty, I think, is probably the most fun to play on because it's not hard. And a lot of people who play
hard
Vermintide
gets really
2...
good.
Huh?
Hard gets... I mean, it's all levels. Like, when you hit the point where normal is, like, just absolutely no challenge, you'll go to hard and...
Yeah. We started playing on Champion, and that started to get a little bit more our speed. But the last few times that I played, my friend was like, oh, let's play on, like, Legendary or something, which is, like, super hard difficulty. And he's like, yeah, dude, we got to play on Legendary because the lowest tier of item that you can get in Champion is, like... Or he said the highest tier of item that you can get in Champion is like the lowest tier that you get in Legendary. Like you get way better loot. I was just like, okay, let's try it. And like the entire time I just felt like a fucking wet sock, like who like didn't know what he was doing. We were playing with a couple of other randos who were like clearly max level. I was like the lowest level guy, like by like 8 levels. And like I kept dying. I kept getting fucking knocked off the ledge. And people kept trying to help me up. And I was just like, this sucks. Like, I'm not here to, like, do a marathon. I just want to fucking drive my goddamn pickaxe into a rat's head, for fuck's sake. I don't care about any of, like, this, like, marathon shit, like, where we're trying to, like, perfect the game. So I feel like if you go into it with a bunch of friends who are, like, totally cool with being casual about the game and just there to have fun and, like, goof around and just, like, I don't know, slash some rats up and stuff, then I think that's pretty fun. But when you start getting into like the hardcore aspect of it, and a lot of the online community is very much the hardcore aspect of it, because you can clearly tell that this is the only game that they play. Like that's where it starts getting a little bit more too tryhardy for me, and kind of sucks the fun out of it.
Though.
Well, I don't know. I think that he
shouldn't have
probably
brought
thought
you into Legendary.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, I know.
the
I told
problem.
him I was just like, I don't really want to play Legendary anymore. He's like, yeah, that's fine. But he's been playing since like day one, so like I don't really blame him for thinking that we should. He thought I was ready, but I was just like, no, I'm never gonna be ready for that, man. I just don't care about the game that much.
You will be if you keep playing it. You will be ready. Like the reason you were a wet sock mostly was probably because your book levels.
Because I haven't memorized every little rock on the map. Like
no,
that's the thing.
It's not even that. Like that. Like that's important for like tomes and stuff. But like the shitty part about this game is how power level works. Because like, do you know how that works? How the difference between like your character level and your power level?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like Left 4 Dead, where like Left 4 Dead is very much like you need to know everything, and like you have to have these maps memorized, otherwise you can't do expert and you have to work really hard together. Like Legendary, like you gotta work together. It's a 4-player co-op game, but if you guys are all like power cap, then it's not too bad. But if you're not there, then it's just like a miserable experience because you can't kill anything. And you're just kind of there to be a burden. Like that just Yeah. I'm just saying you should give it another shot when you get a max level character.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, I'm not saying that I'm just like, yeah, I'm never going to do it again, but I'm just saying like that's been my experience for the game. Like I'm not interested in like 100%ing the game.
Oh yeah.
Or anything like that. I just think it's a satisfying game to play and it's fun like as like kind of a background thing for me at least. Despite me playing with somebody who is like very into the game and he like memorize where all the tomes are in every map and like he knows everything. So
Dane, if you think this is something like a game to just have on, you could just have on Hubie Halloween.
What I mean by that is like when you're talking to somebody, like I could talk to my friend on normal difficulty about like whatever and still like slash rats. But whenever we were getting into the harder difficulties, like what we were talking about was the fucking what we were doing.
Yeah,
because
like
it demanded our
make
attention.
Calls. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like jogging and running,
I have to turn the volume of the game up louder than my friend so I could hear when the fucking assassin rat spawns.
God, I hate that thing. Dude, the stupid rat with the stick, the choker one.
The
it'll,
choker
like, drag
ones,
you away.
the choker ones are really loud, so I'm cool with those ones because you can hear them coming a mile away. The things that I hate are the ones that summon the big green storms, because sometimes they spawn so far away from your party that you'll just never find them, and the storm will kill everyone, and you're like, I didn't even see where the guy was, so how am I supposed to kill him?
And if you don't have ranged, good luck.
Yeah, then
if it spawns somewhere like on a cliff.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the worst fucking enemy is the one that spawns the big green storm. Every other one is pretty easy to look out for once you know what they sound like. But yeah, the disabler rats are still kind of like stressful.
The plague rats, those really suck on like high dip when they just shred you like instantly.
Yeah, because like you can't do anything. Yeah, I don't think you can stun them. They just kind of they gank you and they just are relentless.
Yeah, that game's good.
It is fun.
Did you get the DLC?
No, but my friend said to get 2 of the DLCs, and the rest are useless.
Okay, I'd be interested.
I forget which one he said.
So a lot of the DLCs are like map packs. I think those might be the useless ones because
he specifically said that he hates the maps that are in the DLC. Okay, just looked at the message. He said back to Ubersreck and Winds of Magic, and then he said don't get anything else, just get those 2.
Yep, that's the right call.
All right.
Yeah, because what's Winds of Magic is what I want to talk about mostly, but all the other ones, the reason they're useless is because you can play them for free as long as somebody else has them.
Oh,
so
yeah.
So it's like there's no point. But what's really cool about Winds of Magic is it is like a separate way to play the game where like the way power levels and leveling up in the base game is like loot based and like getting weapons that slowly get better and better, and then you can choose perks for your character, like going through like a skill tree all the way up to 30. And the way it does it in Winds of Magic is everybody's at 1 again, and you get currency for completing these rounds that have like differing objectives that are actually pretty cool. Like it spices up the game. But then what you do is like after you finish a successful run, rather than getting, you get a chest still for the base game, but you can't use any of that stuff because you'll also get this currency that you can then spend on upgrading things that are like abilities or weapons or just all this stuff. So it goes from like a loot game into like a big like RPG building game where you're just going to build a character and you can make them just absolutely insane. Like you can just build characters with like really high crit. It's like, it's more like it kind of turns into like how I think people play Diablo or like Path of Exile with a, not a giant skill tree, but still like a lot of flexibility. It's like, it just turns it into an RPG. It's interesting. But a lot of people didn't like it because it's not a loot game anymore.
Yeah, too different from the regular game, probably.
Yeah, but it's like it's cool because it breaks it up and there's different objectives. My friends and I, when we were all playing, we had a good time playing it.
Yeah, I mean, he told me to get the one that has the throwing axes for the dwarf because he said that those are really fun.
Yeah, yeah, dude.
So,
the second
they sound fun.
The dwarf that can dual wield. I think it's the second one you unlock of the dwarf. That one's the best.
No, there's the Slayer, right?
Slayer, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, Slayer.
I haven't played any of that one yet, actually. I've been playing a lot of the Ironbreaker, the tank build.
What's so cool about the Slayer is his ult is he does a cannonball. He just yeets himself into the crowd and just stuns everything. It's so great.
Yeah, it sounds fun. I've been playing a lot of the Ironbreaker because I just like not dying.
Yeah,
you can just be invincible as that guy.
Well, that's what's cool about the Slayer is you get temp HP off of like all the hits you do. So like on a full Slayer build, you'll just like yeet yourself into the middle of a wave of enemies, and then you just start chopping at all of them. And like even if they hit you, which they won't because you have like increased attack speed, so you're gonna kill them before they can. you get a bunch of temp HP for everything you kill.
Yeah, yeah.
So you just like, yeah.
Yeah,
Wait, so are these builds you're talking about, are these like actual different characters, like visually different characters that you're playing as, or are they just builds for the same guy?
There are five like characters, and they each have 3 sub classes, I guess. It's kind of like in TF2, you could play as like the engineer, or you could play as like the battle engineer, where you could equip the gunslinger and you have 50 or you have 150 health instead of 125. But instead of building level 3 sentry guns, you build mini sentries, right? Like in this game, there's the dwarf character, and he's got a big hammer, and he's got all of these like abilities that make him a ranged character, I think. Like for the most part, he's like got a crossbow and a hammer, and he can like crowd control or whatever. Or you could like play as the secondary character, which is called Ironbreaker, and he's got a big axe or something, and he's also got a big like gun that shoots fire, but he's also got a bunch of abilities that makes him like really hard to kill. And then the one that he was talking about, the Slayer character, he's like a kamikaze, and he's got a bunch of like abilities that like basically make that character work a little bit more as like a Zerg kind of character. He slashes really fast with 2 axes and all that kind of stuff. So, and you can choose those, and then you like find weapons that kind of help you with that build, I think. And that's where the loot system comes into play.
So Gus, it's kind of like Destiny, where like you'll have your like Titan Warlock, and then there's like all the sub elements, but there's deeper things in how you choose your perks.
Okay.
To tie it into like how I think like you know all the Destiny subclasses work, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it is very much like, you could say that it's got the Diablo kind of dungeon crawling elements of like how you build your character, but the gameplay is basically Left 4 Dead.
Okay, so you're kitting out your guy, you're getting that like better sword that has a slightly higher number that does generally the same thing and increases your power level rather than like the way you play the game.
Yeah.
I see. That's cool. Yeah, it sounds like this game has, and I know we've talked about this before, but it just sounds like it has so much going on. It sounds like this is a very, I don't know if I'd
it
say
is kind of a deep, it is kind of a deep game at its core. Like you can definitely see that right away. However, I do think that it is very basic. Like anybody could pick up the game and understand what is going on. You walk into a field with a bunch of rats running at you, and you have a big sword in your hand. You know what to do.
Like, I wonder what I do with this.
You click the rat and he dies. Like, and you just keep doing that. Like, it's not that hard to understand. But if you want to, like, go all out, like nerd essay on it, then you could. Like, you could just write a whole dissertation on like
essay.
A nerd essay. Like you could write an essay on like all of the different like things that you could do to make your character like as efficient as possible.
All the different ways to kill rats.
There's probably so many video
the efficiency of chopping the heads off of rats.
Oh my god. Yeah, see, that's how I approach Left 4 Dead. I love Left 4 Dead 2. I pop into that game every now and then, still to this day, and when I do, I don't like care at all about playing on like harder difficulties. I just like to go and, smash my way through zombie hordes. So
yeah.
Sounds like if I play this game like that, I'll have just as good, if not better time, because smacking rats with hammers, maybe more satisfying than shooting zombies with shotguns.
Definitely. I think that you will have fun.
That's cool. Yeah, it sounds awesome. And it's set in the Warhammer universe, which seems like a super well fleshed out universe that I am not familiar with.
It's been around
Warhammer
since like
sucks.
the 80s or something, right?
Yeah,
I don't like Warhammer lore.
I think that it's really cheesy personally. I think that it's like, if I had to like make a tier list of medieval or fantasy lore, it'd probably be in like C or D for me.
Well, you can just tell it came from the Uber neckbeard time.
Like, yeah.
Like, well, I mean, like, and there's some cool.
It's based on the
things about
tabletop. I mean, like, that's all you really need to know.
Well, yeah, but they like Games Workshop does a lot with like world building and stuff, and like there's some like I respect it. I don't like it a whole lot.
Exactly.
But, like,
that's how I feel about it. I don't have a problem with it existing. It's just not my taste.
Yeah,
I'm definitely more into the Elder Scrolls kind of like Lord of the Rings type of stuff.
More, yeah.
Okay.
Tolkien is more my. It's a far cry from.
No,
Tolkien.
yeah, it gets a little bit more into like dark fantasy, which I think is where it starts to get a little cheesy.
It's the angsty guy that wrote his own Dungeons and Dragons campaigns.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, Warhammer, not 40K, I think looks dope, but Warhammer
40K
Fantasy,
is even worse.
Oh, okay. Well, fantasy
In my
Warhammer,
opinion.
it's always struck me as, I don't know, just like discount D&D. You know, it's like, why does Warhammer have to be its own universe? But I mean, I think it looks cool. It looks like angsty Warcraft, like big armor, littler guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, they look like rescue heroes, but, you know, mad.
Yeah, I mean, it's the lore's surprisingly deep. What's like a cool thing about Games Workshop, that's the company that owns Warhammer lore, is they care so like all the video games that are Warhammer are all done by different studios because they just license everything out. But the way they do it is you can license an individual property of Warhammer. Like it's super granular. Like you can license the Goblin and you can make a game about the Goblin. You can't talk about anything else in Warhammer, but you can call it a Warhammer Goblin game because you've licensed the Goblin.
Well, I know what we should make.
Yeah, right? I kind of want to like
Warhammer Goblin.
Like, yeah, dude, like that'd be sick. Like, just run around being a little goblin.
Warhammer : Goblin.
Dude, he could make voices like Adam Sandler.
Uncut goblins.
Hey, I'm a goblin.
I'm a goblin.
Yeah. So on the Hubie scale of is it safe on Halloween or is it not safe on Halloween? I wouldn't feel safe around a goblin.
No,
Goblins seem unsafe.
They'll steal or something.
I can't get over how funny that title is.
What?
Warhammer.
Goblin. It's better than Untitled Goblin game.
Can you imagine buying a $60 game?
Warhammer Goblin.
It's not that funny. I'm sorry.
They're gonna make like a fake like poster for that or something.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you know that that fans of the goblins from Warhammer, like people who spent $700 on a painted set of goblins, would come out of the woodwork and like granularly critique you on every little design choice you make on how you present their goblin.
Yeah, they weren't. The goblins in Warhammer Goblin were not faithful to the goblin aesthetic that's been established in the Warhammer lore. And here's a 10-page essay on why all of it is bullshit.
Nerd essay.
Actually,
Warhammer Goblin, a disgrace to the Warhammer series.
Yeah, Warhammer : Goblin, more like Warhammer : absolute disgrace. In this video essay, I will. So Vermintide is awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty.
I'd say check it out. Yeah, don't watch any videos of it because it honestly, like the satisfaction just comes from you doing it. I think you watch someone else do it, and it doesn't really look like anything.
Yeah, it's better played for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind because I was totally just judging it based on Matt's gameplay that he edited into our last podcast. We talked about Vermintide.
I see.
But I'm excited for maybe, a couple podcasts from now after Matt finishes Warhammer Goblin. Then we could talk about that and see how that plays out.
Yeah.
Okay, so Vermintide seems very good. And now we know about it. Dane, you know nothing about Star Wars Squadrons.
Yeah, explain what that is, please.
Okay.
Explain to the folks at home what Squadrons is.
Do you like TIE fighters?
I don't know. All right.
Do you like... Sorry, I should start with the better.
Do you like goblins?
Do you like goblins? Do you like X-Wings?
I don't know.
You've seen Star Wars, right?
Yeah,
do you
what
mean
I
you
don't
know?
the ships that they fly. I don't
Yeah.
have I
You don't know their
don't-
names? You don't know what an X-wing is?
that's the plane that looks like an X. Yes.
Yeah.
Easy to
You like
identify.
How do
space
I
battles.
feel? What do I don't know how I feel about them. I think they're just the planes they fly.
Dude, okay. Well, I mean, a lot of people, they were like, yeah, dude, X-Wings are fucking sick. Like, I thought maybe, you know.
They're fucking iconic, brother. I don't know. I'm not really a big Star Wars guy anymore. I used to be when I was like 15, but I haven't really thought about Star Wars that much lately. What? Okay. So it's X-wings versus TIE fighters.
It's Star Wars space battles, first person cockpit view only. And it's like
What?
a 5v5 game. Yeah, so it's a space sim.
Wait,
You fly
it's a
around in a
multiplayer
spaceship.
game,
Yeah.
and
That's
it's
what's cool about
VR.
Yeah, so that's what's really neat. So
It's only VR, or is it?
no, it's both.
Oh,
You can do
okay.
both.
Okay.
I haven't actually played it in VR yet because
That sounds like it would make me sick to my stomach.
well, yeah, it's rough. Like I imagine it's gonna be like I played Elite Dangerous in VR, and that can really take it out of you.
Yeah, I played No Man's Sky in VR, and it's
it'd be
it's
similar.
difficult.
It also doesn't work super well. Two of my friends have VR, and they've been trying it, and it's not performing great. So I've just been playing it standard.
Yeah, of course. Okay,
Yeah,
so
it's
you play first person. So you fly around and you shoot other players? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. So it's a 5v5 squad based first person ship combat game, and
Okay.
it's built kind of like I don't know. I want to say it's kind of like Battlefield, but it's far off. Like there's objectives. So there's two modes
okay.
in the game. And there's dogfight where you just fly around and you just shoot each other and you get to 30 kills, and that's just kind of like a warm up mode. And
You respawn?
yeah, in dogfights you
Okay.
you respawn. Yeah, you always respawn.
Alright.
In both modes. But yeah, you'll just respawn and you just shoot each other, and it's like a team deathmatch. But the highlight mode of the game is called Fleet Battles, and the objective of that is each team has like a big Star Destroyer, like a big main mothership, and the goal is to take out each other's mothership. And like the way that this ends up working is there's like these tides to the battle. So when the match first starts, it's a free for all, and everybody has to. Okay, free for all is the wrong word. You have a dogfight to start off the match where nobody has priority, and so everybody just has to like try to take each other out to get the advantage. And when you do that, then you enter like if you win or lose that initial opening fight, it will allow you to go on attack or defense. So if you take out the enemy ships, you're on attack, then you can push forward and you can try to take out the enemy's ship. But as they defend and take out your ticks, it will push your advantage off, and then eventually you'll go on to defense where you have to go back to your side, and then the other players try to attack. So you're basically kind of just trying to either take out their ship and hold your advantage by taking them out while you're on their side, and you'll be like disadvantaged because there's going to be their main starship is going to be firing at you. They're all closer, etc. You try to maintain your advantage while like taking out the ship, and if you lose, it will like go back. So there's this like kind of shifting back and forth motion of like what role you should be playing. And to kind of go in with these different phases of the game, there's a bunch of different ships. So there's not just like X-Wings or TIE fighters. There's like a bunch of different more like builds that I guess are more accustomed to like a class-based game. So like your X-Wing is like your general ship. It can do a lot, but it's not really amazing at anything. But then there's bombers that are really good at just going in there and like dropping bombs on the main capital ship of the enemy team. But they're kind of slow, and if somebody gets on one, they're going to have a hard time defending themselves. And then there's an A-Wing, which is like an interceptor, and its whole thing is that it's really fragile, but it flies really fast, and you just kind of have to go in, try to kill somebody really quick, and then get out. but if you take a couple shots, like you're just gonna blow up. And then there's also a support ship where it basically just like tries to fly around in the back and will do some sort of supporting actions. And it has like a lot of different ways you can build it. So all these ships I've named, they have like standard parts, but they are all modular and you can customize how they play. So like you can change the lasers and the engines and the power-ups and the missiles and your hull and your just everything. You can totally rework how you want it to go. So you can do different builds with each type of unit also, or each type of ship. And what's really cool is with like support, there's a bunch of different ways you can do it. You can just heal people and give people shields. You can do these things that are gonna like make your entire team like have like a cloaking ability. So like if things are getting hot and your team needs to like pull out of an area, you can just cloak everybody and it'll make it harder for the other team to see them. You can mark targets, so everybody will take like bonus damage that's marked. Like there's a lot of like cool, deep ways you can build things. And you can constantly change throughout the match. So if you're attacking or defending or whatever, like you can make calls and just swap out your ship and go to a loadout you already made and then start using that. And you can even do that when you die. So there's a lot of different ways to approach each game, which is like what's so cool about it. Like I'll be playing a certain class for a bit and then I'll switch it up. Just because like it's a different way to experience the game, like each build and each ship. Yeah, it's really cool.
Huh. Yeah, been watching some. I just went to the Steam store page. Sucks that EA is in charge of it because that means it'll be fucking abandoned in a year. But
yeah,
but it seems cool.
This game, so it's bizarre, but the strangest thing about this game is like, you know, EA tries to make everything a fucking service where they're like, oh, we're gonna have DLC and we're gonna. They
try to, but then they just abandon it.
Yeah. So what they said with this game, they were like, okay, so this game, it's gonna be $40, and everybody's like, oh, okay, cool, that's nice of you, and they're like, and there's gonna be no DLC. Everybody's like, oh, okay, cool. And they're like, oh, and we're dropping it immediately.
Okay.
Like, yeah. And everybody's like, no, what? Yeah.
The $40 price makes me think there's microtransactions. Are there?
There's none. That's what's crazy. It's
what
just
the hell?
Yeah,
right.
It was like, it's just a Star Wars spaceship game, and they're like, we're not going to do anything else. Like we're gonna do like a performance and stability patches, but we're like, yeah, we're just going to make this game and hands off. It's $40 and that's all you pay. And it's cool, but also like I want more. So I'm bummed that they're not like,
yeah, it's weird that they would like come out with this, like, it's kind of an original concept of like, especially the online 5v5 aspect of it. Like, I don't know. It's a kind of original, or I don't know. I haven't really heard of very many like online games like that. Most online games are just like shooters. So, yeah, pretty cool. Yeah, I might actually check it out.
Yeah,
only
dude,
$40 too.
If you do, we usually got a squad going, so you can join in.
Well, there's a single player as well, so
yeah, but it's like
check that out for a bit.
It's not super great, but it's basically just a huge tutorial. In a way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, game's pretty good.
It sounds a lot like Battlefield, the way you were describing.
Yeah,
the
but it's a
multiplayer
little
matches.
different because like Battlefield's like more players, you know, and that's where this game's a little different because it's not like it's only 5v5. It's not like 40v40.
No, I just mean like the structure and like gaining the advantage.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
That seems very Battlefield-esque, and I think Battlefield's awesome. So, doing that in Star Wars, like I don't even know. I can't even imagine it. So I think it'd be pretty interesting to watch y'all play.
Yeah, and they do a good job with like the maps because they kind of cover the gambit of what you expect. There's like a map where there's nothing, so you're just flying through space, and you have no obstacles in your way. But then there'll be a map that has like a giant space station, and you can go below the space station or go above it, or you can go in it. And so there's like all these like weird obstacles for how you can approach the other side or like get behind people there's one that's just in an asteroid field, and that one's fucking hectic because you go in the middle and you just have to like bob and weave up and down to get through anything. And if somebody's like trying to lose you through there, like there's a good chance that they're going to get away because they can just zip around so much that you might end up killing yourself trying to get to them. So do a good job. Pretty good. Pretty good.
Oh. So I know, Matt, you started playing Elite Dangerous in order to get like accustomed to flight controls and to get hyped for Star Wars Squadrons. Do you think it lived up to the hype that you were expecting?
Yeah, it was pretty good. Well, I'm mostly Squadrons was like an excuse for us to like get really into Elite. I kind of got into Elite just because that game looked pretty neat, but I'm pretty happy with how this game turned out. Like, I'm bummed that they're not going to support it, which is like a bizarre thing to say. Like, I'm bummed that EA is not going to try to sell me more shit. Because I would really like to see this game evolve over time. I'm hoping that they got a lot of good reception and like maybe make this like a every 2 years. What would that be? Biannual? I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't just like make a follow-up game that's a little bit more polished. Because I'm just kind of browsing through the Steam reviews, and a lot of the recommended reviews have at least one mention of somebody saying like it's not very deep, like it's pretty just a standard like you get in and you fly around kind of game.
So I don't know. That's not the flying. It's not like Elite Dangerous deep, but there's a lot of things that are more than just like fly a spaceship and like press forward. I'm sure that when you get into like the competitive aspect of it, it's probably got a little bit more depth to it. But I think a lot of people are pointing out that range of options of ways to play it.
That it's just kind of like
light.
Yeah, that it's kind of a light game, which for $40, I mean, like, yeah, it makes sense. And a lot of people are like, yeah, it makes sense that it's $40 because it's like it's not really a full like AAA game that you would expect, I guess. So I don't know, maybe they put it out as kind of like a feeler, and they're just like, I don't know if people would even like this kind of game, so let's just like put out part of a game and see if anyone likes it. And if the reception is good, maybe they could make Squadrons 2 and actually like, develop it for the intent of it being a full price game,
Well, this game is like, I think like the 4th or 5th in the, it's not like a strict franchise. It's like, there's been a lot of spiritual successors. So there's like, I think there's just a game called X-Wing and a game just called TIE Fighter that were single players versions of these, like back in the like really shitty computer days. Like, I think it was like, like very like Windows ME or something crazy, or maybe even like, I don't know. They're old. They're very old. But then they made the Rogue Squadron games that were on like, I think it was on N64 and GameCube. And they were basically this, but also mostly single player because they were on that. And they haven't made a game like this since then, since like, I think the early 2000s. So this is like bringing back a dead franchise in a way.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, I hope they keep doing stuff with it. Like, I don't know how you make it deeper, but like, I really like what it has. It's just fun to play.
I love, Matt, that in the time that Star Citizen hasn't come out, Elite Dangerous and a full-fledged, beautiful-looking Star Wars space simulator
dude
has come out.
Star Citizen, man. What the fuck is that game?
They just delayed again.
Of course, that game is never coming out. The game is a social experiment to see how like crazy people are. And anyone who downloads that game is insane.
Odyssey is getting its second like major content expansion. That's like the wrong way to say it.
How do you make a content expansion for a game that doesn't exist?
No. So there's Star Citizen and there's Elite Dangerous. And Elite Dangerous is the one that has been out and people have been playing the full game and they've made several expansions.
Okay.
and so they're doing a new one that's basically adding in a lot of features that Star Citizen is going to quote unquote ship with. Like, like walking on foot and being in interiors and stuff. They're adding all that to Elite. And that's,
Honestly, at this point, it's like quote unquote Star Citizen. You know what I mean? It's like,
Elite is just Star Citizen. Oh, God. Elite's just better. Elite's such a good game.
I gotta play that game. I really would want to play it.
Yeah, it's neat.
I was interested in it when I was getting into No Man's Sky because I like the idea of flying around in space and stuff.
Yeah, and you can earn an honest living. Like one of my favorite times playing that game. Yeah, like you can just be a space trucker, earn an honest living. Like I found a good route, and for about 6 hours, I flew back and forth just delivering materials. I was like, it's not glamorous, but it's honest work.
It's great.
And it's yeah, I don't know. It's fun because even that can be like enticing because like
what a stupid name for a game, by the way.
Elite Dangerous. Yeah,
It's
right.
like two words that don't mean anything.
Yeah.
Well, it's because Elite is from a franchise that was also from like the Uber Neckbeard days.
Which is what Star Citizen is like a spiritual successor to Star Commander or Wing Commander, which are like Uber Neckbeard PC games, right?
Exactly.
That was a cursed time. We need to forget about that.
I
Uber
mean, like,
Neckbeard.
yeah, good stuff came out. Like, but yeah, Elite Dangerous is it's like, you hear that? It's like, that's like a shirt your grandma would buy for you at Target.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's what
cheesy.
it sounds like.
I would have like somebody say, "Have you played Elite Dangerous?" Oh wait, is that like a fighting game or like an action game? No, it's a space. It's like an open world space sandbox. What the
It's
hell?
an
Why did they
deep
call it that
space
then?
simulator.
Why did they call it that then? It makes no sense. That like call it Star Trucker or something to indicate what kind of game it is.
I think it's a cool name because Elite Dangerous are two things that I am.
You're elite and you're dangerous.
In addition to being elite, I am also dangerous.
Whoa.
Whoa. All right, we should wrap up. We're already at like.
What do you mean? We haven't
2.5.
talked tea. We have an entire segment.
We don't have to
an
talk
entire
tea.
segment.
We can talk tea next week.
Oh my god.
It's still gonna be here.
I mean, if you hadn't talked about your movies for a goddamn hour, Gus.
That was
That's
actually
freaking true.
I'm on the
I did enjoy it. I'm okay with
I
it.
literally am talking with our producer. One sec. Yeah, I'm on the line with our producers now, and that segment is testing really well. Our viewers love it.
Whoa.
Okay, so Matt, I think you're gonna have to. So just to circle back around to Hubie Halloween.
Oh my god.
Matt, you gotta put the this picture that Dane put in the Discord of the Hubie Halloween Animal Crossing Island.
Oh yeah, no, I was gonna
so
do it.
while you guys were talking about Vermintide and Squadrons, I kept looking at this picture and giggling. So you might, I don't know, in the audio you might hear my giggles because I know who this guy is dressed up as, but there's a guy in here in this picture who is dressed up as Freddie Mercury. But if you didn't know that, you might just think he looks like that. This guy who is presenting the Animal Crossing Island. He's a character from the movie. But I kept laughing to myself because I was thinking like Dane saw this, has no idea that this is a actor in the movie. Because
I thought he just had massive teeth and a mustache.
Because T-Pain's not in the movie. Lauren Lapkus isn't in the movie.
No.
But this kid is. In the movie, he's dressed as Freddie Mercury. So it's like an homage to his character, but also like T-Pain's not in costume and neither is this other Lauren Lapkus. So like why?
Yeah, it's so weird.
All I'm saying is go watch Hubie Halloween. It's on Netflix. It is a smash hit. It's fun for the whole family. This is a family podcast. I actually get a lot of feedback that people like will sit down for dinner with their humongous families, hold hands, say grace, and then listen to the Motion Pixels podcast as a family, as their family time. And I think that's really special. So yeah, go check out all the families out there. Go check out Hubster, the Hubie Halloween special. Ernest Does Halloween or whatever it's called. Go check it out. It's a hoot. It's a hoot, but like HU, like in Hubie, you know?
Yeah.
I started laughing at Warhammer Goblin again.
Yeah, Warhammer Goblin. Yeah, it's that's an idea. That's a startup idea. Warhammer Goblin.
I'm gonna email him. I'm gonna see how much a license would cost.
Like, I'll give you $150 if I can have the license to not even all goblins, just one goblin.
Yeah, can I just make a mobile game? One Goblin.
What is it? A science-based goblin MMO.
Oh my god, it's an MMO based around. Oh my God.
Okay.
Wrap it
Everybody, families out there, this one goes out to you because this has been the Motion Pixels podcast. Your co-host, August Meyer, say goodbye. Wait, no, that wasn't Adam Sandler. Goodbye. That wasn't Adam Sandler either, but that's my goodbye. I'm joined by Matthew Rawlings, my lovely co-host. Matthew, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
That was more Eric Cartman than Adam Sandler.
Yeah, fuck,
But, we appreciate
can't
it.
do an Adam Sandler voice.
And joined also by the current reigning baddest boy of comedy, Dane Kevin Cook. Dane, say goodbye.
Goodbye, and I'd like to dedicate this episode to a celebrity that recently passed away, the Ladybug from Bug's Life.
What?
Not the actor, the actual Ladybug. Here's a picture. Put this picture up. This podcast is dedicated to the Ladybug from Bug's Life. May he rest in peace.
That sucks.
It's so sad.
What is coming out of his nose?
Shit. Just a big little piece of shit.
Okay.
End theme song.
I'm finished.
Is that actually shit?
I don't know. I was.
What is that?
It does
Is
look
a
like shit. I
smaller-
didn't want to say
It's
it.
from
though.
Is it a smaller
bloopers.
bug?
I don't know. I think it is supposed to be shit because it looks like it. But the Bug's Life at the end of the movie, there's like fake bloopers, and there's a part where he's like, "Oh, I have something stuck in my nose," and upon closer inspection, I think it's just a piece of shit.
It's probably from the poo poo platter.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Oh, it is literally the poo poo platter.
The poo poo platter made of poo poo.